Yo, is the mic on mic? Into that mic on mic and pour us another one. Let's do it right though, Mike. We feeling nice though, Mike. Gather round, gather round. Into that mic on mic. Into that mic on mic. Yeah, Garage Drinks with Mike. Woo!
Awesome. Reina Vaai, welcome to my garage.
Cheers.
So good to have you here.
Good to have you too. Is this the first time that you've cheers with the tea?
This is the first time I've had anyone on this drink that drinks tea.
Wow, yeah, I'd like to be the first.
Actually, no, I have had someone, but she started with a tea and then she ended on the beers.
And hit the hard stuff.
So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. Yeah, don't speak too soon.
It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. You've done amazing. Seriously.
Oh, cheers. It's pretty low key, laid back.
What I like is that, when people start creative projects,
yes,
maintaining consistency is really hard. Like you'll see lots of people fall off,
yes,
but you've just done it. It's good.
Thanks. Yeah, I try and just keep like one episode a week.
Yeah.
Just keep it going because it's like in my spare time, really.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get sponsored. Maybe one day I'll get paid for this. But at the moment, it's just like when I can fit it in on the weekends, just try and get someone in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, it's really good to have you here. You do so much. Ain't you tired? You do a lot.
I am tired. Can't you see my back?
But you do a lot of things. If I go back, so you were born in Samoa, is that right?
Wow, there's a technicality there.
Okay.
So, my two older siblings were born in Samoa, and then my mum only came over to New Zealand just to give birth to me, and then we went back to Samoa. So the reason for that was because our village hospital didn't have a doctor at the time. They usually just had like a midwife or an unofficial midwife that helped deliver the babies, but she had a terrible experience with my older sister, so she made sure to come to here first so that she could get, the adequate medical support that she needed.
Yeah, right. And where in Samoa is this?
Satawa, so that's in Savaii, that's in the rural area. Very, very Guabex.
I've been to the other island, Upolu.
Yeah.
I've never been to Savaii, but I hear Savaii is amazing.
It is much better than the main island.
Right.
Yeah. You heard it here first. It's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully once all this lockdown finishes, I'd love to go visit.
Yeah, for sure.
So she had you over here, took you back there, and you grew up there, or how old were you?
I was about 3 when we moved back here.
Right.
And then we lived in Mangere. I've lived in South Auckland my entire life. So the memories that I have from Samoa mainly come from my siblings or stories that I've heard. All of our photos and memories, like physical, tangible memories, have been destroyed. They were destroyed in a cyclone. So, yeah.
That's pretty hard.
Yeah.
So a lot of the photographs and all the history, a lot of your family history just got wiped out.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think I felt kind of left out when I was in primary school because people would bring in like baby photos. There are no baby photos of me. I think actually 3 as a toddler. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah.
But I guess that must have happened to our people over and over across the years, eh? If
100%.
you think about it, like all the cyclones and hurricanes that have hit our people.
Yeah, and we do have an oral history anyway, like a very, very strong oral history for Pacific people. So I guess it does sort of align with our cultural history anyway.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up here in Mangere, South Auckland.
Yep.
Very cool, very cool. And what primary school did you go to?
I went to a Catholic primary school called Holy Cross.
Okay, whereabouts is that?
That's in Perpetuates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I go back there quite a few times just to speak and to share my story. And I think it's important, like what you're doing with this podcast, to share stories and so that people can see quite visible role models that look like them, role models that they can relate to. Yeah.
Do you see yourself as a role model, or do you feel the pressure to be a role model?
I think that anyone who wants to live their authentic life is a role model. And I think the term role model does have some negative connotations because it can put pressure on people. But for me personally, I don't mind being called a role model. I consider it an honor because my whole purpose in life is to be able to lead an authentic life, but also to allow others and encourage others to do the same, whether it's following in my footpath as a career person or whether it's just being honest and true to yourself, because that's massive for me.
Yeah, there's such a good way of answering that, because I thought about it a lot when I was going through everything that you've done.
Yeah.
Because you do a lot of things, and I wondered, like, you know, how you see that idea of role model. Because again, like, role models put on like other people as well, like, you know, sports stars, people in the arts.
Yeah.
However, though, it's a little bit different because those people sort of got to different parts or different levels in their careers because of how talented they were in that particular field, but they weren't expecting other people to follow like their private lives or idealize them in that way. And then when they make mistakes in their private lives, all of a sudden they're shunned or like torn down because, you know what I mean? So in today's day and age, the idea of like what a role model is, I think it's really clever how you put it, like living your authentic life.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any role models?
Do I have any role models?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I take certain parts of like different people that I look up to.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's one particular person. Probably my dad, to me, was a role model. My dad passed away when I was 10. But I guess my dad was quite a big figure to me.
Yeah.
But as I grew up, without having a dad, I took certain parts of, and it was more like people's talents or people's abilities, and also looking up to people that I admired, and what they did and how they responded in their personal life as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, so for example, the journey that you've taken, because you do a lot of things too.
You're
quite multifaceted. So do you see the impact that role models have had on you in terms of the path that you've taken, or is this just the path that you've taken on your own? Do you like recognize some, like, do you think about how your dad would have reacted if he knew that you were an actor or you had done all of these different things? Does that come into play?
No. But in every different part of what I do have like certain people that I take qualities of and try to keep up to those standards.
Yeah.
However, like, because I was born and raised in Tonga, I came over here when I was like 16, 17.
Yeah.
So it's navigating like through this Western world as best as I can.
Yeah.
As a parent, as a husband, and just trying to like build a damn life for my family, you know? And it's not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
You know, when you're trying to like just find your way through it.
Yeah.
And so I just go by gut, really.
Yeah. I'm big on trusting your gut.
Yeah.
I haven't always been good at it because of self-doubt, but
Right.
I'm so big on intuition and what feels good.
Right.
Traditionally, I think the career that I'm in as a lawyer, the profession is very, very traditional, and it's based on procedure, bureaucracy, hierarchy, and not so much about gut, though.
Systems already been in place for years before you came along.
Exactly. So I think that's amazing. That's really, really cool. I'm wondering, so you know when you came from, sorry, I'm taking over the interview now.
No. Look, man, like this is not in a structured way. This is not set in a system.
Awesome.
You are here and you are here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to like ask you questions and expect you to answer.
Yeah.
Just go for it, girl.
Cool. So you know when you came here when you were 16, 17, how hard was it for you to sort of adjust to New Zealand life? Like, do you feel that you're still adjusting because, or have you fully assimilated? How do you feel about that?
Firstly, I think I had a slight advantage in that I'm half caste. So when I grew up and I'm completely 100% fluent in Tongan.
Yeah.
I still am today.
Yeah.
Like, and I've always got that in my back pocket.
Yeah.
But I grew up speaking English at home in Tonga, which is a little bit different.
Right.
So when I came over here, like I could at least speak the language because I understand and appreciate that for a lot of Pacific Islanders coming over here, English is probably the hardest thing to learn. If you don't have that initially, it's hard to like come in. So when I came over here, I at least had that. Okay. Having said that, like my first year was in Palmerston North. This might sound really strange, but I didn't like white people. Like, and I mean that in the nicest way.
That's not strange at
all. It's like a culture shock, you know. And I come from a school where there were probably only maybe one or two, couple of white people in my high school to come to this, and I was all of a sudden the minority.
Right.
I didn't like certain things. I didn't like the culture. I felt weird when we sat down to eat at lunch. Right. I couldn't understand how I could sit here, someone else sit next to me, and they could eat their lunch and not offer me anything. It just felt strange. It just felt really weird that people did that.
Yeah.
because like in Tonga, man, like you always eat together, you break stuff off and you share, you know. That was like a real culture shock. Just the whole, I don't know, the whole kind of New Zealand Kiwi way of living was quite a shock in the first year.
Yeah.
Also, I came from a country where it's high in humidity, so my skin's always used to being quite oily as well, you know, naturally. Coming over to Palmerston North was really dry. My skin dried out, and I didn't want to, I thought it was quite a feminine thing to put moisturizer on your skin or to like put lip balm on.
Yeah.
Therefore, my skin really broke out into really bad acne. My lips cracked really bad. So the adjustment, like if you see it from that point of view, was really bad. So for a teenager, man, that's like really hit my self-confidence. And I went from being like kind of a grade A student in Tonga to just passing my exams here in New Zealand. So but I think I've recovered and I adjusted and adapted to it. Yeah. But that's a pretty good question.
Do you think your life would have been different if you had stayed there? Obviously,
in Tonga?
It would have been. But are you glad that you came here?
Yes. Cool. The opportunities here, there's so many opportunities here for my children and for me. Than there is in Tonga. I could never do this, probably couldn't do this in Tonga. Might be able to do it now, but it would never be something that I dream about. Also, Tonga's in a system that's, how do I say this? Parts of the system can be quite corrupt over there. And for some of my friends that still live over there and work over there, I'm not saying they're part of the corruption, but I do say that they find their own way where they become successful. Right. And if you're not part of a certain system, it can be hard for you to be successful. Yeah, it's that hierarchy as well, right? Tonga's always been a monarchy. Yeah. And so it's always had a system where there's 3 levels. There's the king, there's the nobles, then there's the commoners. And it's very strict in that structure. And it's been like that for centuries. Yeah. It's maintained that throughout the years. And so when you're over there, you have to be part of that system. You have to find your place, your niche, and adapt to it. Right. Yeah. But being over here is different as well. And that a lot of things over here, you got to hustle with money. You know what I mean? Like in the islands, you've got an abundance of food always available. There's coconut trees, there's the water. But over here, like if you don't have money, you could be homeless. Yeah. You got to pay the rent. Yeah. You can't feed your family if you know what I mean? So it's very different, yeah. And it's also like how you said, it's far less collective. For example, if you didn't have something in Tonga, there'd be someone next to you, or in the islands, that could give you some sugar or give you some salt. Whereas here, we almost like live in silos and isolation, where it wouldn't be normal to go over to your neighbour's house that you've never spoken to and ask for some sugar. That's right. Yeah. You can't even walk down like the main road in a village in Tonga without someone calling out for you to come and eat. And it's disrespectful on their behalf if they don't offer food to you. So there's that sort of sense. What about yourself? Like, do you ever imagine that you would could live over in the islands? Yeah, I worked in the islands before I graduated. I worked at the Attorney General's office, and this is when I thought I, maybe could consider living there. But I don't think that I could. Right. Only because I enjoy the opportunities and the life that I have here. And as much as I love the Samoan culture, I love most things about it, there are some things that I do reject. It is quite patriarchal, and patriarchal systems don't really like girls like me because I speak openly. I love that. And I think that it doesn't really always align, like the way that I live my life doesn't always align with Samoan cultural values. Yeah. I'm still proud to be Samoan, and I don't think that it makes me any less Samoan. Some people have tried to say that. I'm like, no, it doesn't make me any less Samoan. Whether I'm 1% Samoan or 100%, I'm still Samoan. Yes. I just live differently, or I live a life that I think is authentic for me. In Samoa, can women own land? Yes. They can? Yes. I know in Tonga you can't, right? Yeah. Oh, right. So it's not I don't think it's as conservative as the Tongan culture. Yeah. But women have, we had a female deputy prime minister who recently resigned, but still I think that there's a lot more room to grow in that space. And I saw an interesting post on Instagram about feminism in tikanga Māori and te ao Māori, and I started to think about whether there is a place for feminism in the Samoan culture. And I think that's still a conversation or something that I still need to learn and sort of see where I fit on the scale. But all in all, I am really, really proud to be Samoan. Sure. Yeah. You said before that you had moments of self-doubt.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting because your chosen profession is you're a lawyer. And what you have to do is you've got to speak in front of people all the time. So describe to me what it's like to be... Do you still have self-doubt?
Yeah, I do. But it's different. It manifests itself in different ways. For example, I would still stand up and speak even when I'm scared. I would still not... If there's like a gang member sitting across from me in the cells and I'm telling him some bad news, I have that sense of doubt in the back of my mind, but I still do it. And I think that comes with age, because I think in the past I probably would have just shied away and not done anything about it and would have avoided the situation completely, would have found a way out. But what I've learned through age and experiences is that it's important to even just embrace that feeling of self-doubt and just know that it's just a natural sort of, your body's just processing something, but you still need to do it. You should still have enough courage in you to stand up and do it. So I experience self-doubt all the time. It's
surprising, I think a lot of people that have to do stuff in front of other people or stand up and speak go through it. But I think it's normal, it's natural as well.
Yeah, it is normal. And I also feel like self-doubt is aligned with the feeling of embarrassment,
right?
Like that fear for me personally, and I've learned to just sort of laugh at feeling embarrassed and not be crippled by it. That's the key to it, I reckon. It's like feeling like, you know what, I might look like an idiot, but stuff it. Who cares?
Let's go.
Who cares is like my life motto. Let's go.
So you're a lawyer. How did this all come about? Like, did you want to be a lawyer since you were in high school? Was this like a lifelong dream, or? It
was not a lifelong dream. Sometimes I hate my job.
Okay.
Like, truly. Sometimes I do. Sometimes every 3 months I'll be like, I'm going to quit. I'm going to go do something else. But I think that's because I've got quite a flighty personality. Like, I would just go and do lots of different things, as you can see. But there wasn't one like definitive moment where I thought, I'm going to be a lawyer. I think there were a lot of experiences in my life where I realized that I wanted to do something to help people. And that's the thing about law. It gives me the opportunity to help people, help vulnerable people that are in really, really sad situations. I actually wanted to be a journalist.
Okay.
And then somewhere along the way, I realized that I could advocate in either profession. And that's all it is for me, is advocating for people that need help.
And you do a bit of journalism? I do.
How
common is it that people do a little bit of lawyering and a little bit of journalism?
Not common at all. Not common at all. I think I am a black sheep. Because, like I said before, the legal profession is so conservative. It's so traditional. For example, if another lawyer saw me doing this podcast, there would be whispers like, why is she out there doing that? Why? It's this weird, I think it's an elitist thing where they think that lawyers shouldn't be as accessible to the community. You're placed here, you're held to a higher standard. And that's what we get told all the time. You're held to a higher standard because you practice in the law, you have to abide by the law, and I understand that to some extent. But before I got my law degree, before I went to uni, before I started this career, I am first and foremost a Samoan girl from South Auckland. And whether I'm allowed to share my story in any form, if it allows someone else to be inspired by it, and I do get a lot of comments about how open I am on social media, and about how if I did a media interview, they'd be like, why is she doing that again? You know, because a lot of lawyers, their social media profiles are private, and I get it, there's safety reasons as well. I totally get that. But I like being accessible. I like it when people message me. Like last year, I had a De La Salle college student message me saying, hey, I want to be a lawyer and a journalist. So then I told him, hey, why don't we meet? I'll take you for a tour of the court. We went over to the police station. They met lawyers. He brought his friends, and we had a day. And then suddenly we have these young kids from South Auckland saying, I want to be a lawyer because I saw all these Pacific lawyers. And it's about allowing the accessibility. I'm not better than anyone just because I got a job. Who cares? You know, it's just a job title.
Well, this is the thing though, like if you're not accessible,
yep.
Like how the hell are kids supposed to dream or be able to start to see that something like that is possible.
Exactly.
If it's so cut off from them.
Exactly. And it goes back to what you said about role models as well. Because if you walk into a law firm, ask any of the lawyers in that firm, what did your parents do for a living? I guarantee you, majority of them have come from really, really wealthy families. And it's about having access to education, access to opportunities, access to resources, therefore access to wealth. And if you don't have any family member in that that has gone to uni or that has, paved out a career path that they want to pursue, then of course they might think, it's not possible for me. But it's absolutely possible. I'm not the smartest person. I just had someone, lots of really good role models guiding me.
Much of those role models Pacific Island?
Yeah. And I think it's important for them to be Pacific Island because we want people that we can relate to. I'm not saying that you can't have role models that aren't Pacific Island, but if there's a sense of familiarity, especially for me personally, someone that I can see or relate to, or someone that has a similar background or has similar parents, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So since you're so accessible, so to say, so you must have had quite a few younger people reach out to you.
Yeah, all the time. I take phone calls. Sometimes it does get a bit draining when I've got my workload. Yeah. But I think it's a very, very small price to pay in order to encourage somebody else. Yeah.
How long have you been a lawyer for now?
Almost 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you choose criminal law specifically? Because I know there's all different types of fields of law, but why criminal law?
I chose criminal law because law for me has always been about people. There is, throughout uni, there's quite academic papers, for example, contract law, tax law, that never interested me at all. Everyone kept saying, you have to take at least one of those papers. I didn't take any of those papers. I took all the papers that I knew that could be applied to my own community. So criminal law really fascinates me and inspires me as well, because if you want to know what the problems in our country are, or in any society, whether it's New Zealand or overseas, I invite you to go to a prison, because in prisons you will see the result of mental illnesses that have not been adequately cared for. You'll see the result of lack of employment, the result of poverty, homelessness, all in prison.
Right.
And you have to wonder, what have we done as a society to encourage or help vulnerable people? There's this huge sort of stigma and judgment on criminals, and I understand we're not condoning their behaviour, but if we just keep tackling the actual incidents rather than looking at the root of the problems, how we can help alleviate those problems, then we'll start to actually see a reduction in crime. That's what I think.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty insightful. Do you think there's one particular area in particular that we could clean up?
One really obvious thing that we can do is looking at the media, because unless you have someone like me who works in criminal law, so unless you know someone,
right,
the only window that you have to understanding or looking at criminal justice is through the media. And the media famously perpetuates negative stereotypes about Māori and Pasifika people. And if you have that constantly drumming into people's systems, into their ears, what they watch on TV, then of course people are going to want politicians to be hard on crime. And that's not, sending people to prison obviously doesn't work, because if we've been sending people to prison this entire time and we still have a continuous influx of prisoners, then it's not working.
Why do you think the media perpetuates those sort of stereotypes?
Mainly because the media is white,
right,
and powerful, and it's a way to protect power. And if this is how they view brown people, it's a way to continue oppressing our people. Whether or not it's intentional, it's still there. It still exists. And I think journalists have a duty, an obligation to be not only truthful, but to be fair, and not to allow their own sort of personal perceptions to drive their stories. Like, if you're going to name someone Māori or Pacific, a defendant that's allegedly offended, then name someone a white male. Name the terrorist a white male terrorist. And that doesn't happen. It's
just like, what happened in the Capitol Hill, I think?
Yeah.
Weeks ago. And when that happened, That person wasn't called a terrorist
No.
initially, were they?
No.
Like it took a few days,
Yeah.
even a few weeks, I think,
Yep.
for the media to sort of translate that
Yeah.
into the actual title. But if that person that did that was of any other nationality,
Of course. Yeah, they would have been vilified. And it's not fair. And it annoys me. So I think that's one thing that we can do is to call out the media. And I guess it's ironic because I work in the media, but I'm very conscious of the stories that I tell. And I ensure that I'm not placing my own biases or my own prejudices into these stories. And it's important to elevate Pasifika people. And that's why diversity is important in these spaces as well, because we want people telling the stories to understand the community, have empathy for the community, and understand the consequences that their stories have on this community. You know, I think about it all the time as a lawyer, because when we're in these spaces that are predominantly white, we leave the room, they can go off and live their lives. But if we do anything wrong as Pasifika people, our community won't go looking for the white people. They'll be like, I know Reina, she was working on that job, she was working on that case. We have to answer to them. And because I live in South Auckland, I could be stopped at a grocery, and I have been stopped, you know, and it's something that people need to be more conscious of. And white people, we don't always have to educate white people. White people should be taking the time out to learn. Our role shouldn't always be, the pressure shouldn't always be on us to educate white people on how to treat us.
so well spoken. So well
Sorry,
spoken.
I'm so angry. Can you see?
No, it's so good. It's so
down.
good. It's so good. You were talking to me before about working in the media, and that you think that this stereotypes are perpetuated from them because it's largely white owned and stuff. But when you're working in the media and you're creating stories, right, you must see it from within, though, of like what gets produced, what gets edited, what gets controlled, and what gets put out.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. I worked for Tangata Pasifika, which was a Pacific show, and then in terms of like mainstream media, I think that I haven't really had the privilege of, or the opportunity, I should say, to look within and work with like mainstream journalists. But I definitely see it as someone in the industry as to how journalists or how reporters and presenters can do better by our people, you know. And it's not a biased thing where they should treat us, where we get special treatment. We just want equal treatment. And it's not that hard. And I know that Stuff sent out an apology saying that their whakapapa has been racist. They acknowledged that they have perpetuated racism in the past. That apology was great, but we need to see action. I don't want to hear you talking. I want to see you making a difference.
And what sort of action would that be?
Hiring more Māori and Pasifika journalists and encouraging them to be the front runners of telling our stories. It's one thing to hire someone that's just brown and they think, oh, they'll come in and tell, you know, whatever. It's about nurturing them, it's about supporting them and making them feel empowered to tell our people's stories.
Do you think that's slowly starting to change?
I definitely see a change. We've got Indira, who's amazing on breakfast, but I would like to see way more.
Just tip of the iceberg, eh?
Yeah. And I think that her being in that space is already breaking barriers, and it's allowing people like me, who also work in the industry, to look at her and be like, you're freaking amazing. Like, you keep going, and it's encouraging.
Very encouraging.
Yeah.
She has such a strong story.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah. You so outspoken, like I love it, and very strong about what you speak about. Were you always this way? Were you always like this in high school or as a kid?
Yeah, you'd probably, if you ask anyone that grew up with me, they'd be like, oh, she's got a big mouth.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, no, always like that.
Where'd you get this from? Like, is this something that your parents taught you to be outspoken about, or is this something that you just slowly...
I think my parents would prefer it if I wasn't as outspoken, but my parents never stopped me from speaking my mind or sharing opinions. I've got 3 siblings, and we always have debates amongst each other. And you know how we spoke about it before, about how in our culture there's hierarchies and there's, you know, rules that we have to abide by. And in Samoan culture, if your brother is older than you, then you can't answer back to your brother. I always answered back to my brother.
I knew you were going to say that.
Always. And it was just a thing. Like, my parents like tried to teach me, hey, you know, you need to respect your brother. But my view is that if we can argue in a respectful way, but if you disrespect me, just because you're older than me does not mean that I have to respect you. And I know that there'll probably be people watching this saying, she is such a moi beef, but I just think that someone shouldn't be respected simply because they're older. Of course, elderly people, there's an exception. Of course, parents, exception, but not my older brother or my older sister. Yeah, I'm going to send this to them and be like, no respecting.
See, this is so good because I love having someone like you sit down for like a couple of hours and just speak your mind freely.
Yeah.
And also I think it's quite good for young girls as well to see this, and guys as well, you know, and realize that you can speak up, you can speak out. It's one of the harder things for people to be confident enough just to speak out. I think it's hard for people just to come onto the podcast and know that they can freely speak their mind or ask questions or say whatever they want and not be vilified.
Yeah.
Yet, I mean.
Yeah, we'll wait till I'm just not going to read your comment section.
The comment sections, I think, so far have been fine.
Next minute, yeah.
Growing up in South Auckland, how did you find growing up in South Auckland?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I'm so proud to be from South Auckland, and I think that it's a community that gets a lot of flack from the media, but it's such a vibrant and resilient community. Like, yes, we have had issues, of course, but again, it goes back to addressing the root problems that continue to affect our people. So I think that the more that we have, so for example, Māori and Pasifika journos, Māori and Pasifika lawyers and judges, politicians, influencing that space to better protect our people, then we can truly make positive change. There are, of course, positive changes happening, and I'm proud of that, but I'm hoping that in my lifetime I can see a lot more.
It must have been hard for you to like the lawyers and judges that have gone before you, that were like sort of the stepping stones to beginning this process, and they must have felt, I imagine, quite isolated at times, being stuck in a system where they were the minority and there were a lot of things going against them. Yeah. But hopefully, I guess things slowly start to change. Yeah,
I hope so too. And I think that things are like, already we've got we just had another Pasifika judge appointed like this week. His name is Judge Michael Mika. I don't know him personally, but again, seeing a brown brother up there, I was like, wow, amazing. So encouraging for those who want to follow in his footsteps.
Would you become a judge one day?
Absolutely not. Judges are people who have, how do I say this? My personality doesn't fit in that type. You know?
What is the personality for a judge?
I think quite, not conservative, but you have to stick by the rules. You can't make any sort of political statements. You can't really do any media interviews. Being out in the community, there are rules about that as well. I'm not sure many people know this, but you know, even if I see a judge in public, I'm not allowed to call them by their first name. Even if I'm like, hey, Michael Mika, I have to say, hello, Judge, hello, Sir, hello, Your Honour, even if we're just passing each other at the traffic lights. So those traditional views are very, very present even today. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so no, my personality, I'm just
almost isolated a little bit.
Yeah, and they're placed up here.
Is it because you don't want them to be affected by too much bias?
I think that has some part to play in it. It goes back to, again, accessibility, where they can't be reached. So the way that we admire judges as Pasifika people is sort of from afar, from a distance, where it would be amazing if young people could have access to them, access to their stories, and find out more. I know that some judges do go out and talk at schools, but not as often.
Right.
Yeah, it's there's sort of like these figures, distant figures for us. Yeah, unless we appear in court in front of them. Yeah. Yeah.
So in addition to being a lawyer, doing a bit of journalism, you also decided to write some children's books.
Yeah.
How did this all come? How did that come about?
I always wanted to write children's book. I've always wanted to. That's always been a goal of mine. And I think I just got really sick of whenever I'd go to the sales and speak to clients, whenever I advocate for clients, I always think about their story. What story am I going to tell the judge? How am I going to make you appear more human? Because what people just look at is
the facts
of
what happened.
Rather than actually this person has been traumatized his entire life and he has suffered unimaginable abuse. So I started to ask them, hey, before all of this happened, what was your dream? What did you want to do? Like, what were your goals? And a lot of them kept saying the same thing. Nobody's ever asked me that, ever. And I started to think about ways that I could change this, or ways that I could improve or have better conversations about this. And I realized that all of this work needs to actually start at a much younger age. If we're going to start look at tackling reducing crime, we need to look at children. We need to look at how these children suddenly grew into these adults. And a way for me to do that was to write children's books and encourage kids to start thinking about their careers. And it wasn't just about, hey, I want you to be a lawyer, so here's a book about being a lawyer. It's more about allowing them to see, here's a book about a brown person, a character that looks like you, that had a dream and achieved it. Here you go. And I knew that I couldn't go into every single school. I knew that I couldn't go into every single home, but books are so accessible. So they've gone around the world, just from my garage, gone around the world, gone to different schools out here in South Auckland, and that was my way of still trying to advocate in a different way.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I love how you saw that over time, that it goes all the way back to children and their innocence and how they're affected with what they see is put in front of them. Yeah. And of course, stories are
so powerful. They're so powerful, incredibly powerful. I mean, I've always been affected by stories. They've always had an impact on me. And if whatever stories I share have an impact on someone else, then that's a goal ticked.
100%. Especially stories when you're probably at your most vulnerable, or things that have affected you in a real deep way. They give other people strength to either speak up about their story or strength to know that they can overcome whatever it is that they're going through at the current moment. Yeah, absolutely. And you still write books?
I haven't written one. People have been pressuring me to write The Lawyer. Okay. Yeah. So I've gotten 4 books, but I hope to write more before the end of the year. Yeah. So I think there's definitely a demand for them, and I hope that whoever listens to this feels inspired to write their own books, because no publisher would take me on. Right. And I just published them myself. I just got them printed and sent them off. So I don't think that people should feel like
intimidated by having this to necessarily get a publisher.
Exactly. And if you're rejected, who cares? Just find another way.
100%, man. That's why I did this.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't want anyone to like kind of produce it or edit it or stuff, and I just want to control what I put out.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to do it myself.
Exactly. That's cool.
But sometimes, especially in New Zealand, it's the only way to do it. Just do it in your garage.
Yeah, and it's mean. I love the concept. It works. Yeah.
Thank you. I find you to be like such a beacon of light, like in South Auckland, and not just South Auckland, but for our community as a whole. And you speak out like about a lot of things. Has being an activist ever been on your list of agendas of things that you'd want to do? No. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. For me, I just do what I can in whatever capacity I can, because we can't do everything, but everyone can do small things, to create change. But no, I've never thought about being an activist. To be honest, I don't really think about job titles as well. Like, sometimes I do use a lawyer card to get into particular spaces. I do that. But for me, at the end of the day, it's just a job. It's just something that I do, because there's one thing to be proud of being a lawyer, but if you're an asshole, no one cares. It doesn't mean anything. That's right. Not at all. So yes, I'm proud of, having a career. I'm grateful to have a job. In terms of being an activist, I think, that would be an honour to be called an activist. But at the end of the day, if I'm fulfilling my purpose of serving my community and advocating for people that can't speak for themselves, then that's all that matters to me. Tell me a little bit about your parents. Like, what sort of jobs or what sort of work did your parents do? My mum worked in a factory. She worked in a supermarket. My dad had he was a driving instructor. You wouldn't know that based on my driving, because I can't drive very well. But they didn't have professional jobs growing up. And it was really hard. And one thing that they always pushed, though, was education.
I wasn't good at sports. I wasn't good at performing arts. I wasn't good at a lot of things. But one thing that they really pushed was to read, to write, and to work hard in school. So that's what I did. And I think it worked out okay, but it's not for everyone.
No.
Yeah, I have to say that university is not for everyone, and just because I'm leading this life doesn't mean that it's the only way to live a happy life, because there's so many other fulfilling things that you can do. And that's why in the books that I wrote, I'm still hesitant to write about the lawyer, because I don't want it to we've got the doctor, but I don't want this big focus on you have to be a doctor or a lawyer, because I know that that's a conversation that a lot of island parents have with their kids, and I think it can be quite damaging. And it's not fair, as long as you're living. And my parents didn't put any pressure on us to study. They didn't put any pressure on me to. They just said, if you work hard in high school, you've made us happy. That's it. So over time, I developed habits, and I developed a love for reading and writing, and that's why I went to uni. But if I turned around and said, hey, I want to be a performer, I don't think my parents would have had any problem with that, as long as I'm living a happy and fulfilling life. I'm lucky in that respect. I know that others aren't. And I would like to encourage parents to just let their kids explore and feel free, because I don't have it figured out. I still think, honestly, next month I could be, okay, Mike, I quit my job, I'm doing something else, I'm going to start painting, But as long as you're living a fulfilling and happy life, and you don't have to worry about having a roof over your head, as long as you've got a roof over your head, then that's fine.
So true. I'm so glad you said that about there's massive pressure amongst Pacific Island families, a lot of pressure put on education. And everything that you just said, I agree, 150%.
Yeah.
Because, man, here in New Zealand, one of the industries that's really booming, trades.
Yes.
Like, huge industry. If you're an apprentice and you become a builder or something, like you can make a lot of money. Again, this is 2021. One of the other professions that can be self-taught is like video editing or producing content.
Yeah.
And kids that spend a lot of time in front of like computer screens and stuff can pick it up really fast and have a really good knack. As a matter of fact, the guy that edits this is amazing at what he does. I'm blown away. Kanan is 22, Manariwa, and he's the perfect example of like doing stuff that I don't have the patience for. I can't picture myself doing, but he finds it so easy, and he's such a knack for it.
Awesome.
But there's so many, and being athlete or in sports, like there's so many different other fields rather than academics. I don't think I was a great student. I think I was okay. But I learned how to read and write. And I think like that was kind of the basics for me. I was maybe average, just a little bit above average, but that's about it. Right. Yeah. And I used school mainly to socialize. And I went to uni. Yeah. But I went to uni. I got into uni on like a university entrance. I was on, I was on probation because I failed bursary. Right. I just failed bursary. So I had to be on good behavior.
I heard bursary is really hard.
Well, it was for me.
Clearly, no. I heard it's really hard. So if you just pass, I think that's a pass.
And I hung in there and I got my degree. And I had like later on, I had like the option to like maybe do like a postgrad or master's. Awesome. But I couldn't imagine myself going through uni again and being broke. I hated being broke. Yeah. I'd rather work. And so I understand what you're saying when you're saying that uni is not for everyone. Yeah. But everyone finds their own niche and their own way of making things work. Yeah. And some of the most astute South Auckland businessmen never went to uni. Like are just hustlers, and they just have it by knack, by trade. They have a feeling for it, an inkling for business. Yeah. And own multiple small businesses and make them work. And that's what they do. And for those people, I salute them. I wish I was one of them. Yeah. But I'm really glad that you said that about the pressure, because there is a lot of pressure that Pacific Island parents put on education. 100%. And it can be a little bit damaging. Yeah. But that's I think that's also the previous generation. Yeah. They saw things quite black and white. Yeah. You know what I mean? You did well at school, you're a lawyer, a doctor, a school teacher, or one of those expected professions, or you were a farmer, which was looked down on. However, like being a farmer on the islands, you can export a lot of stuff to Japan. Yeah. So, it's how you look at things.
Exactly, it's perspective. Yeah. And I'd hate to think that someone pursued, and I know so many people like this, a particular career, or they went to uni and studied a particular thing just to make their parents happy, and then they themselves end up being so unhappy. And I think seeing quite a few unhappy people made me committed to not living in life like that. I was just lucky that I enjoyed reading and writing, and I wanted to go to uni, so I was just lucky in that respect. But I don't think that people should put pressure on their kids like that. It's damaging.
Yeah, as a parent, I just want my kids to be happy.
Yeah.
And I don't really care. Like, I just want them to do the best.
Yeah.
Give things a shot.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, fine.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
But like, if you find something you like and you're good at and you
Yeah.
enjoy it, like, do the best you can at it. But that's it. That's all.
I love that, because giving it a go, I'm like the queen of giving things a go. I love trying new things and then failing, trying this thing and then failing. The amount of like failed little projects that I've had are like, can't even count. But encouraging a kid, give it a go, and if you fail, all good. Try again. Try something else. I think that's amazing.
Well, one of the biggest things about being a human is like every time you might fail at something, you learn so much about yourself. You try something else, you might fail at that, but you learn more things about yourself and how you stand back up.
Yeah.
And those are things that can't really be taught.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the practical world,
Yeah.
that living by learning is so important.
It's like what you said before about, you know how you asked me about confidence? Like, why am I outspoken? It's just come to me as well. It's because of all the failures that I've had, and now I just don't care anymore. I'll just say, I've been vilified in the past. People have said a lot of nasty things, but I don't care.
Well, not everyone's always going to like you.
Exactly,
You know what I mean? And I accepted that when I did this as well.
Yeah.
Not everyone's always going to like what I say or what other people say on this.
Yeah.
But that's part of being human.
That's cool, exactly. That's awesome. Awesome.
Now, I'm glad that you're here, because I've had a burning question that I wanted to ask, and you're the first guest that I can probably ask that probably has a really good answer to it. Why do you think New Zealand failed or didn't pass when we did the vote for cannabis and legalizing it? Should I say legalizing or should I say decriminalizing? It's the same thing, right?
Same thing.
So it was pretty close. I think it was like 48 to 50%.
Yeah.
Right. It was a little bit concerning to me though, because obviously that's a massive split, almost down the middle.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Because, okay, to start this off, I think that New Zealand is quite. My perception of New Zealand, apart from racism, is quite forward thinking.
Yeah.
In a lot of aspects in the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
So when this happened, like I thought that 70% would vote for it.
Yeah.
Why do you think it didn't pass?
I think that there probably wasn't enough education around it. A lot of the people that I spoke to, so I just want to preface this by saying that I'm not an expert. I'm not a political commentator.
Hold on. Were you pro for it, or did you want it legalized or?
Legalized.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't smoke. I've never smoked dope in my life.
Right.
But I also didn't want my own personal preferences to limit anybody else. And I feel the same about that in a lot of areas. So I think there wasn't enough education around it. People that I spoke to that voted no were quite conservative religious people, and I think the things that they were reading about how the incredibly negative impacts that cannabis has on people, and then that leading to it being a gateway drug, that was a massive argument for the people that voted no, that it was a gateway drug. So I think there just wasn't probably enough education around why it's important for people to have that choice.
It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks because like I know there's a lot of people sitting in prison right now that have charges on them to do with weed that it causes like a black mark on their name, like when they do come out of prison. It causes, and whatever they go through in prison alone, like is probably a little bit traumatic. Yeah. And coming out and trying to integrate themselves in society, just a little bit of weed. Yeah. Yeah. Just for something recreational. I'm just be clear about that. I used to probably when I was younger at uni. Yeah. And that's fine. Like all good if you do, all good if you don't. But it's important for people that are voting to understand the impact of their vote, to understand the impact that they're having, particularly on whenever you vote. I think it's important to keep in mind the most vulnerable people in your community, because I'm okay if I vote no or if it doesn't go ahead.
I'm okay, but what about people that are stuck in prison, like you said? So I definitely think that I think Chloe Swarbrick is amazing. I think she did a fantastic job. But in terms of reaching those really conservative communities, we could have pushed it over the edge if there was more education or more talanoa, as we say.
The thing is, though, what you just said right there is not many people think the way you think, Reina. You just said whenever you vote, you think of the most vulnerable.
True.
Majority of people, when they vote, they're thinking about themselves.
True.
Which is such a good way of looking at it. Like, when you do vote, think of the people that are most vulnerable, that will be affected in the worst way.
Exactly.
How this vote swings.
Exactly. It's almost like there was a big uproar with the abortion bill that was passed during COVID. And again, I would never have an abortion, but I don't want to limit someone else's choice. And I'm very pro-choice. And I know that that's not a view that lots of people share, and that's fine. But vulnerable women who are placed, and particularly island women, like we see articles where women have given birth and thrown their babies away. Like the baby in Mangere a couple of years ago. You know, there's a reason for that. There's stigma, there's shame. It's not because this mother is a terrible person. Of course she made a terrible decision, but not that she's a bad person. She just didn't have the right support. There's actually a woman in Samoa who's in prison right now. I'm not sure whether she's been released, but I tried to get in touch with her. And I failed. She gave birth and tried to flush her baby down the toilet. And from a very, very superficial level, you could think, holy crap, this girl is an idiot. She made the worst decision. She's bad. She should go to prison for 10 years. But she didn't have criminal history. She was just a young person that didn't know what to do. And she tried to do that. And now she's in prison for 10 years. And again, does this woman need to be in prison, or does she need support? Does she need counselling? Does she need access to resources that will help her get over this terrible decision that she made? You know, and if we had sort of started having these discussions again about education, educating people about safe sex, educating them about choices to make, using safe drugs, being safe in whatever environment you're in. If we started having those conversations, particularly in these conservative communities, we could have saved that baby's life, you know? So yeah, that's my view on, that's how I vote.
That's pretty crazy. And that's a pretty tragic story as well.
Yeah.
So did you say that the girl's still in prison?
I think she's still in prison, yeah. She was sentenced to 10 years. I tried to look into the case a bit more, and the Samoan court, I was like, met with so many obstacles. I had a meeting with I think one of the head prison guards when I went there, and again they said no, you can't go in and see her.
Why?
They didn't give me a reason, and I don't think that it was because of the fact that there was any like massive corruption going on. I think that they were very suspicious of me because I was from the media, and an outsider. I didn't live there, they didn't know who I was, and yeah. I'll
tell you an interesting story about crime in Tonga.
Yeah.
This happened when I was growing up, and so the youngest of my brothers is adopted. Like he's an extended family member, but he's adopted. At the time he was the youngest of 13 kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, his dad had a beef with lived in a village, had a beef with one of the cops. I don't know what the beef was, but they didn't like each other. One day the dad was driving back from the bush and saw this cop walking back from the bush. He was driving a minivan, decided he had rammed this cop who was walking.
Right.
Rammed him, hit him, and picked him up with the front of his van and smashed him against a coconut tree, I think, shattering his lower limbs, his pelvis.
Wow.
Pinned him against a tree. Of course, the other cops came and took the dad into custody. He got taken into custody. He got beaten in custody by the cops. My youngest brother, the mother, went to visit the dad that night in jail, and he had blood trickling out of his ears. And the next morning the dad was dead, and there were no charges, nothing ever laid. And it was just, we were so used to it, and my dad was used to it as well. It was just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Like the cops can do that. And so he was dead the next day, and my dad then decided to adopt the youngest, and we took him in. But that is the true story of how his actual biological dad got killed.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And is why it's so important to question power and to speak up and to think of ways to change, because that is so unacceptable. But in a sense, it's like culturally acceptable because you just understand that's the norm. Cops, you know, in the islands, they do that because they can. That's so unfortunate and so sad. Yeah. How is he now? Is he like, does he hate police officers or?
No, because it happened before he was 1. He
wow.
was real young. And so he never really knew much about it.
Right.
Like, would go visit his mum every now and then.
Yeah.
But now, like, he grew up and he's taller than me. He's, but he manages like 3 watermelon farms in the middle of the outback in Australia.
That is so cool.
And that's what he does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like, again, someone that was never really, school wasn't for him. And he was a little bit slower with reading and writing, but he managed to get reading and writing, but he was really good with his hands.
Awesome.
Really good at creating stuff, and now he manages watermelon farms.
That is so cool. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, that's a story of someone going full circle from...
Yeah.
Because when we got him, he was malnourished.
Malnourished, yeah.
Where like he was real skinny, but he had like a real belly that was hard. Like if you prod it's hard and it's from not eating properly and boils all over him.
Yeah.
And he's probably watching this.
Yeah.
Going, why are you saying all that stuff about me? Because it's true.
You got boils. Yeah.
But went full circle, and now he lives a great life in the outback of Australia with his dog and his girlfriend.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, that's what we do as people, right? Like as Pacific people, we bring our family members in, you know, we help them. Like I was just talking to my friend the other day about how when I was living in my parents' house, we've never lived alone as a family. We've always had family members living with us because my parents were the first to migrate over.
Yes.
So then when you're the first, you have the obligation to not be the last, to bring everyone else through. So that's amazing. That's like classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fee was sitting right there telling me the exact same thing. And I understand that you directed that piece about Fee.
Yes, that's when I first met her.
That piece is, I saw that piece. I saw it last year, I think.
Oh, cool.
It was amazing.
Oh, cool.
So you directed that.
Yeah.
For anyone listening that doesn't know, this is Daughters of the Migration. I think it's available on Coconet.
Yep. And YouTube.
And YouTube. It's an amazing story. Fee Fa'amausili alone is a very inspirational person. But that was really well shot. And the story curated like so well.
Cool.
I was surprised to learn that it was you that did it. Oh, cool. I shouldn't be surprised.
No, it was actually my first ever one that I directed. And it was funny. Lisa Tauma from Fresh, she was the one that sent me a message and asked whether I would be keen to direct my first ever mini doco. And at the time, I'd only just done small TV pieces. It was such an honour. And you'll see in the animations, the reason why we had to add animations was because Fee was so busy that we didn't have enough shots. So then our editor was like, I'll just draw some things. I was like, yeah, draw some things. But what was cool about Fee's story was that while I was in court, obviously she worked at the Manukau police station at the time, during my lunch break, I was coming out to shoot things. It just worked so conveniently. Like I was like, court adjourned, and then I just would run over to the police station, meet with the cameraman and get the shots that we needed. But Fee was so honoured to be able to do that piece on her.
Well, she's such a humble person.
Yeah.
That it's you got to really like draw her story out, because she sees it obviously in a very different light, and that just who she is and what she does. Yeah. And so to be able to like draw that out, sometimes draw it. She sat here for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Yeah. And there was some really great moments that she spoke, things I never knew about her. Yeah. But she's such an inspirational person. But talk to me though about the process of doing that. Like, have you never shot anything but prior to that?
Never, ever. Right. Yeah. The way that I sort of planned it, I watched lots and lots of different like biographical documentaries, and I looked at the style and what I liked. Then I learned, when I do a story on someone, I stalk the crap out of you. I go through all of your photos, and I look at your family members. I Google search, I read articles, I go all out, and I just want to know everything about the person, if there's anything that I've missed. What I also look at is what part of her story hasn't been told. And I look for heart, because that if your story has no heart, then there's nothing really to it. And if someone's not learning something, then I don't know what I'm giving. That's right. I'm giving nothing. And one of the things that I found out about her was about her dad. And she spoke about her dad quite a few times, but not to the depths that I would have, that I wanted to do in this story. So I got her, sat her down, and in terms of, she told me, I'm not going to cry. And I said, yep, all good. Then about an hour in, she was like, you're making me cry. And it's an awkward thing when you're sitting in the seat where you don't want the vulnerable person to feel as though we're exploiting them in any way. We're exploiting the emotion, and trying to balance that with sincerity and honesty. And I think Fee was such a good sport, because she understood that it was a safe space. And then also when we went to her dad's grave, which was also a special moment as well, but filming that part and getting that emotion was all about choosing the right music, choosing the right tone, the right pace, and getting her mum, making her feel comfortable, and ensuring that it was just about building trust the whole time. Because I was so new, they were like, who the hell are you, you know? It was important for me to know that they trusted me, because it's such a vulnerable place to be in, to share your story, you know? And the animations, I got inspiration from another video that I saw where they used animations to tell a story about the Holocaust.
Right.
And it was so beautiful. I sent it to my editor. My editor was like, I'll give it a go, you know? So we did that to fill the gaps. But it's all about visual storytelling. Like, as much as I like writing, I enjoy images way more. If I could just do that all the time, I'd love it. But yeah, because people want to feel something, you know. When I watch stories, I want to feel something. So that was the sort of end goal, was to get the viewer to feel something and learn something about Fee.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot, because I remember watching it, because I'm at the same gym as her. Yeah. And then going the next day, and I spoke to her directly about it, because I know it's quite important, especially when someone's put out a piece like that about themselves. They're in like a they've opened themselves up. Yeah. You know, and I always think, if I watch something on someone where they've given something, to respond back, you know. Yeah. And so I went up and told her that I thought it was really good, and I thought, yeah, it made me see her in such a different light. Yeah. So there were things about it in that story that I didn't know about her. Yeah. Prior. Yeah. But yeah, she's she's a real legend and a real gem, and we're real lucky to have her walking around and walking the streets of South Auckland as well. And she's so humble. Yeah. Yeah, she's so humble. Yeah, which is like what you said again about being able to draw that story out. And sometimes it does take a bit more time, because people don't always like talking about themselves, saying, I did this and I did that. And she's definitely one of those people that you'd have to, learn more. You could sit next to her and not know that she was a superstar. That's right. Yeah. Now, you and Fee both work a little bit with children as well. And you don't see the so great side of what happens to children. You see the other side. What's that like? And was there any particular reason why you chose to sort of go down there? Because that's it's quite a hard, I think it's one of the hardest fields to go into. Yeah, it is, especially when children are so defenseless. They don't have the tools that we have to go off and take a breather. They're so vulnerable. I do find it difficult, but I think my work in working with adult criminals has really helped me just to be a bit more resilient. I think at some point I thought that I was heartless. I was really desensitized from a lot of things. Right. Where if someone sat across me and said, I raped this person, or I almost killed my wife, it was just facts. I was just like, okay, cool. What's the date today? And it was just very normal for me. And it was going day in, day out, and reading all these things all the time, and seeing photos of bruises and all these things. And this was me for 5 years straight. And so it was very, very normal. And then it wasn't until I transitioned into working in a role that looks at children that I've now started to realize how important it is to actually feel those emotions and not sort of close them off. Right. Because I think for me it was like a defense mechanism. Yes. And I became, my memory started to fade. If this sounds really weird, what I would do is whenever I left court, I would completely forget the person's face that I was speaking to. I didn't want to remember their face. I would remember their name, but not their face, because I would get stopped at the supermarket
And I just wanted to be genuine when I said, I can't remember you. So it was almost like I was training my brain to like not remember them.
Wow.
And it worked really well up until it started affecting everyday sort of moments where I would forget conversations. I would leave and it was terrible because I used to have a really, really good memory. And now it's like quite faded.
Right.
So yeah, but working with kids.
And you don't smoke weed.
But no, yeah. Imagine if I did. But yeah, so working with children it's allowing me to feel all sorts of emotions, and I do get emotional sometimes. Maybe it's because I've got 2 nieces and a nephew that I love to death, and I think about them, like imagine if this was them, in the situation, in this fact scenario that I'm reading, and it's heartbreaking. But as a professional looking at it, it's important not to let your emotions overwhelm you. So yes, feel them, but don't center your emotion. Shouldn't be the center of the story, because the children are the center of what you're reading, and always keep them in mind. So it is difficult, but I've learned ways to like cope. Yeah.
Can I ask you, because I don't often hear about this, I don't know whether this happens, but I just kind of know like my response, like if anything ever happened to one of my kids, like is there much of what's it like for the parents that are involved in this sort of stuff that happens to the children? Do many parents retaliate? Do many parents try and take justice into their own hands? Yes. Right.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Yeah, it does. It definitely does happen. And it's sometimes, like, especially as from the environment that I've grown up in, I completely understand. I'm like, I understand that you would want to go and kill this person for doing this to your child. But then I have to put on my professional hat, which is, that's against the law. My advice to you is don't do that. So it's important to sort of balance that. Like, I sense your frustration. I almost agree with you, but you can't do that. So yeah, it's about balancing. It is hard. It is hard to do.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of parents must feel like sometimes the justice system doesn't work in their favour. Of
course. Yesterday I was speaking at Auckland Uni to these students, and one of them said, what's it like to win a case? And my response is, there's nobody wins in the criminal justice system. There are 2 very hurt people that come together, and getting a guilty or not guilty verdict, nobody really wins, because at the end of the day, one person is going to prison and the other person still traumatic, still dealing with the trauma that's happened to them, and it's a lifelong thing. So I think I had to learn that quite early on, that because when you watch from the movies, they're like, oh, so and so won the case, but lawyers know, and police officers, it's not about winning. It's just about representing both sides to the best of your ability and ensuring that they're protected throughout the system, throughout their experience in the criminal justice system. Yeah.
You said before that you try not to let stuff with children affect you, but do you have like a way of like having to offload stuff? Or
yeah, I have a really dark sense of humor. Like I am like, I'm just, no boundaries jokes. I will go there, I will cross the line. So laughing a lot with my friends, not about what's happened, but just about lots of different things, and mocking, like just being around people that I love and trust. That's the amazing outlet for me. When I first started practicing criminal law, I really struggled with, I think, the content, and I think the pressure of being young and having an adult, a person who's like 40 years older than me, screaming at me and saying, shut the hell up, little girl, all of those things. I struggled with it. So I used to see a psychologist, and I think that...
Say that again? Someone that's 40 years older than you, screaming at you?
Yeah.
Can I just ask why?
Oh, this is like, it's so normal, especially if you're a woman defense lawyer. It's like, if the evidence against this person is so strong and say they have to go to prison, and it's not up to us whether they go to prison, but because we are the direct person that they're dealing with, they take it out on us. Like, I've been threatened, like, I'm going to come and kill you, or when I get released, I'm going to come and rape you. Like, there are all sorts of threats. So I really, really struggled with it, because I was 24, 23 when I first went to prison and started interviewing people, and I was much smaller, so it was something to get over. And I think it also gave me a lot of confidence, because once I got through that period, I saw a psychologist who really helped me with skills, coping mechanisms. And once I realized, actually, I'm in a position of privilege and I'm not going to give it up just because I'm afraid. Of course I'm going to be afraid at lots of different points, and of course I have to protect myself and be safe, but there's a reason why I'm here, and I'm going to keep doing my job.
You've been threatened a lot of times.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Still.
Not since I left criminal law.
Right.
So, but that's very normal, especially if you're a female, you get sexually harassed quite a bit. So I think it's a game sometimes some of them play, so you just sort of have to play it off. But it does get really annoying sometimes.
Yeah, it would slowly eat away at you. And
Yeah, it does get annoying. But again, you know, my colleagues are like the toughest people that I've ever worked with. They're amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say you worked as a defense lawyer?
Yes.
Defense lawyer.
Criminal defense lawyer, yeah.
So explain to me.
That's okay.
Because I'm a dummy.
No, you're not a dummy. It's not normal to know these things, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And
so
you know
what's
what
the
this shows
difference?
me? Is that you've never been to prison. So you wouldn't know criminal defense.
Been to jail.
Have you been to jail?
A while ago.
In New Zealand?
In New Zealand.
Stop.
Yeah.
When? What year?
It was probably about 10, 11 years ago.
Who was your lawyer? Don't remember?
This was... I was only locked up like just for a few nights.
Okay, sweet. Okay, cool. That's not a nice place to be locked up at, because you have to pee I guess you have to pee in front of other people in Mount Eden as well, or remand.
No, I was lucky I had my own cell.
Wow. Yeah. Did you know a cop or something?
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
Okay.
But...
So you got the VIP suite in the
I guess I
in
did.
The cells.
Or maybe I was lucky.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So say if you were locked up in the cells, right? A criminal defense lawyer would be the person coming to speak to you. And say if you were charged with, I don't know, drinking and driving, I would go through what the police report says. Right. And I would say, hey, these are your rights. This is what we can do. This is your defense. These are your options. A prosecutor is the person on the other side. They represent the police and the Crown. And
Gotcha.
They will be the ones bringing the drink driving charge and saying, actually, he should get this and this. And I will argue for the least restrictive outcome for you. Yeah. Yeah, so...
That's a tough role to do.
Yeah.
Because I guess, even though you're representing someone and it's for their own good, I guess not all of them would be agreeable.
They're not. They're not. No, not at all. So, even on my last day of work, I had security had to intervene because someone tried to come and attack me. It was, it's just so normal. And it's not until I speak to other people that don't work in the area where I'm like, oh, actually, it's not normal for that to happen. So, it happens all the time. Yeah, more than would like it to happen. But you would think that they would want to attack the prosecutors, but I think it's because they're less accessible and we're the first people that they see.
Yeah. So if the ruling doesn't go their way, they look at you to blame. Yeah.
And I think sometimes some people do have difficult lawyers, but all in all, my colleagues that I've worked with are amazing and work so hard for their clients. And it's a really thankless job. You don't even get you don't get a thank you all the time, most of the time. It's just like, okay, bye. But that's not the hardest part of the job. I think the hardest part of the job is when you've got a family or children at the back of the court in the public gallery, and you're standing there and your client's in the dock like a father or mother, and their family are just relying on you to get their dad back home. And when he doesn't go, when he has to go back down to the cells, the judge is like, I don't trust you to be out of the community. You're the one that has to turn around. Like, the judge can make a decision and go off, but I have to be the one to go and say, I'm really sorry this has happened. So these are your options. And sometimes they yell and scream, and it's just, that's what I find difficult, just having to deal with the family. Not in a disrespectful way. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But how do you not carry that? How do you let go of that?
My memory. Yeah. So in some ways I get really mad that I've got a bad memory, but in another sense it's actually saved me, because I just go and I can't really remember what happened. And one time I was walking in Manukau Mall, and this girl was like, you fucking bitch, and I didn't even know she was talking to me. I was just like, oh, she's angry. My friend was like, she's talking to you. And then my friend remembered, oh, that's your client's wife. And I was like, oh, okay. And
what do you do in a situation like that?
I just stepped her out. No, I'm not joking. I had a fight with her. No, I just kept walking. Like, what can you do? I mean, other than if she was in a position where I could say, I'm really sorry that your partner isn't here with you for Christmas. I'm really sorry about that. I could. But also I feel like saying sorry puts responsibility on yourself that you did something wrong. But I know that it's also simple words that you can say to make someone else feel better. And if that's going to work, then I will do that. But I think it's about managing expectations, or being able to read the room is a massive. Being able to sense, okay, are they okay for me to approach or not? And most of the time, no, you shouldn't approach. Yeah.
Right. That little incident though, like, have many other lawyers like been attacked like that in public?
Yeah.
And physically?
Yeah, one of them there's an article actually where another lawyer had to tackle a defendant because he was trying to attack his lawyer or something.
Right.
So yeah, that happens. But court security are amazing. Like the moment where they know, and they're really good. They're good at reading the room. So I love court security at Manukau District Court. They're fantastic. Whenever they see like someone raising their voice or someone yelling at me, you can see them like walking towards the room, and all the rooms are glass, and they'll just say like this. They'll be like, "You're right, yeah," and then they'll just wait there until the interaction's over. They'll sometimes walk us back to our office, which is cool. And yeah, I think it's about having good support around you. Yeah, they help to alleviate a lot of the emotions, because it's such an emotional place to be in.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird place to be in. You've been to Manukau District Court?
Yes.
It's so weird because you've got all these like people that are hurting and don't come from low socioeconomic area, obviously being South Auckland, and then you've got these lawyers in suits, and it's such a huge disparity, like a very visual, obvious disparity between the two.
Yeah.
And I feel weird because I think
because lawyers are dressed quite corporate.
Yeah, there's rules around how we dress.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel weird because I'm like, if I didn't have, for example, you don't choose the family that you're born into, right? But if I didn't have these two parents who were like, yeah, go to school, yeah, be happy, I think I could have gone to prison. Like, what's to say that I couldn't have been born into a different situation? Which is why I think that these elitist sort of rules about being accessible are bullshit, because you know, you're not better than anybody else. You just had rich parents that were able to pay for your university. Sure.
And often it's just a few different decisions that you make.
Exactly.
That either end you up like either homeless or locked up.
Exactly.
You know, and we're all human.
Yeah.
And it's within all of us just to make just a couple of little different decisions that, like, I don't know how I would be if like I was a lawyer and someone approached me like that in public. Like, I don't think I'd walk away, but I probably have to think of my family. But that must be quite hard though, to have like if you're with your family and stuff, and if you're with people that you love, and someone tries to step you out in public, and you've just got to walk away as part of your job. It must be quite hard. It would be quite hard for your family as well. Yeah,
I think so. But also, like, I can't really throw hands. So if I could fight, you know, if I came to Fit 60 and I learned, you know, the boxing classes or something, then I'd be like, yeah, come fight me.
But if you're with your boyfriend or like your brothers or like your dad or some people that feel protective over you,
true,
and that comes up,
true,
like it's harder for them to like
that's very true,
separate themselves from it.
That's very true, because that's actually a really good point. I don't think that my family members could actually. I don't think that they could actually turn a blind eye. But for me, it's easier for me to. Yeah, I would never physically assault someone. It's just not really in my nature to do that anyway. But yeah, I see your point. Yeah, I totally see your point.
Do you have any regrets about being a lawyer, or is it still something that you quite enjoy doing?
Yeah, I think it's something that I enjoy doing. I don't think I'll do it for the rest of my life, to be honest. I like chopping and changing things all the time. I like different things, and again, like, I'm such a black sheep in the profession. Why do you call it a black sheep? Because you called it that before, and I wondered about that. You're more like a orange sheep. Oh, thank you. You're different. You know, like, I don't think it's a bad thing that you like that you do a bit of lawyering, a bit of journalism at the same time. It's just different. I think the legal profession don't like things that are different. That's it. But I don't feel any, like, I know who my people are. Like, my friends, they don't look at me weirdly, but I do get the odd comments about what I do. And like, oh, I saw your post that you did on Instagram. Oh, I saw that interview that you did on blah blah blah. And you know, it's a small price that I pay to be able to do the things that I love. And if people don't understand
Accept
that, then it's not really anything that I can do. And I'm not going to stop because of it. Because,
That's interesting, eh? But sometimes when people react like that, though, Reina, you got to understand it's not really about you. Sometimes more about themselves.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very, very true.
People have their own insecurities about
Very
stuff,
true.
you know. And when they see other people like doing stuff that either want to do or they could never do themselves, they sometimes react negatively.
True.
To it.
Yeah, that's true.
They're
I see that.
just jealous.
I'll take that and run.
Is law something that you'd want your children to do? Or like because you've seen the inside of it, is it something that you would advocate for? Or would you be the same as your parents, just encourage them to do whatever they want as long as they're happy?
I would like to be that type of parent, I think. If they wanted to do law, I'd be like, oh, I don't know if you should, it's a lot of long hours, it's quite a difficult life, but if that's what they want to do, then I don't think I could stop them. And I think that if they've got my genes, then I think they'll just do whatever they want, and I probably wouldn't be able to control them anyway. Yeah.
Are your other siblings as outspoken as you are?
No. Oh, actually, I think my brother might be, and my sister. Actually, they are in their own ways.
And what do they do?
So my brother is a police officer, and my sister works at the university, and my younger sister's studying. So my younger sister's like quite creative and stuff. So she's just gone off on her own path, but my two older siblings studied law as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's such strong careers, I guess, like such.
Yeah, I think so.
Had a really good upbringing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
But my parents are not perfect at all.
Sure.
Yeah, but in terms of upbringing, I think that there was enough structure for us to pave a good way. And I think a big thing that my mum did was she put us into Catholic schools. And from there, that's where we were able to learn values, such as like good Christian values, I should say, even though I don't go to church. But it gave us enough, and also it exposed us to different people. So people that, like, for example, if their parents were a CEO, I went to school with girls whose parents were judges and lawyers and all of those things. And just being surrounded by that, I was like, okay, cool. If their parents can do it, I can do it. Yeah.
But also, it sounds like you and your siblings also have quite strong drives as well in what you do.
Yeah, I think so, maybe.
Well, a lot of people remain in their comfort zones.
True.
Like they might do one thing and they're like, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
This is where I stay. This is my lane. I'm going to just stay here because it feels good.
Yeah.
And if they get approached to do something outside, like you often have little ideas of doing other things aside from what you've been doing.
Yeah.
They don't feel comfortable stepping out.
True. Yeah, I would say that probably my older brother and my younger sister are similar, like quite like that, but my sister that's just older than me, I would say she's definitely a comfort zone person.
Right.
So part of what I'm trying to do is encourage her to come out. She is older than me, which is weird again, family dynamic, Samoan culture, you should be respecting your older sister, but I act like the older sister and I'm like, come on. Yeah, but I think that's because I have dreams for her and they're not necessarily dreams that she has. So I also need to respect boundaries as well. But I'm never good at respecting boundaries.
So do you try and push her a little bit into...
Oh, yeah, I push her a lot.
See.
Yeah.
In my family, I'm the only one that like does different...
Oh, really?
I'm the only one. And there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
The other 4 are quite secure in what they do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But for me, I've always like wanted to try other things.
Oh, cool. Do you push them?
I have this saying that always comes to mind. You can lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
Can't make it drink.
Yeah.
Like I do try and push them sometimes. But I got a couple of siblings in particular that just won't sort of step over the line or like, And
where do you get your drive from?
I don't know. He's a crazy dude. I don't know. My dad was a civil engineer.
Cool.
Which was quite different in Tonga. He managed the Tonga water board.
Oh wow, cool.
And also like in his extracurricular, he liked to be a magician.
That is so cool.
And I still have like in the cupboard over there, I've still got like his magic tricks and stuff that he used to do. And then I remember coming on a visit to New Zealand once when I was much younger and going around these weird places around Devonport and Albany because he was researching how to become a glass blower. how to blow glass.
Yeah.
So he was always into sort of various different things. So probably a little bit, I get it from him.
Yeah.
Whereas my mother was born and raised on a farm up north in the Northland.
Yeah.
And she is a kindergarten teacher. And that's what she's always sort of done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been inspired to like try different things.
Yeah.
But I think probably the biggest thing that sort of drives me today is just trying to be like a good provider for my family.
Yeah.
Because I find that, you know, everyone's got a history.
Yeah.
Well, most people have a history.
Yeah.
They have a colourful history. I have a colourful history.
Yeah.
But I find that the more I concentrate on being a good person, the more things work out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's taken me a lot of years
Yeah.
to like figure out this thing that I think a lot of people figured out when they were kids. But it's taken me a long time to figure out that the more I just concentrate on simple values, on being like a good husband and being a good father and working hard at the jobs that I do,
Yeah.
that things just sort of even out and things happen.
Yeah.
It used to be the other way. I used to not think like that.
Right.
And I used to get myself into all sorts of different trouble, man.
Why do you think that you didn't think like that?
I think that I was, to a point, sheltered. I think that my mother, because we lost my father when I was 10. So to a degree, my mother never necessarily taught me about or exposed me or told me about the dangers that other women bring, relationships bring.
Right.
Also things that aren't necessarily taught in school.
Yeah.
About like, I was never taught how to manage my anger.
Right.
That was a massive one.
Yeah.
You know, like how, like self-control. And I wasn't exposed to it, I think.
I think that's common, really common, especially for island men, like managing anger and emotion, just from what I've seen in a professional sense, because a lot of them come in with all this pent-up frustration that they haven't been able to release, and no one teaches you, you're right, no one teaches you how to release the anger in a healthy way, like go for a walk, go and, you know, go to the gym, but instead it's released in quite negative ways. And how did you learn how to, you know, come back to the light, I should say?
My wife is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
She taught me a lot about myself. And also I discovered training as well, which really shifted energy and shifted the way I started to handle a lot of pent up anger and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd find it would dissipate. So I'm a trainer. I take classes at Fit 60.
Yeah.
However, I train daily. I train every day. Sometimes I'll train twice a day. I might miss a day here and there.
Yeah.
But I train for a very different reason. I train to like release a lot of like energy.
Cool.
Some people might think that it's like, you know, like running from your demons. But I just find it like it helps me. Yeah. It calms me down. Yeah. And I'm the sort of person that trains like really, really hard. Like I'll train until I'm like hands and knees on the ground.
Right.
And only then am I calm. I'm really calm.
Right.
If I don't do that, I'm okay. But I feel like a caged tiger.
Right.
Like I can feel it. I can just feel like
what
in my mind I'm pacing. I'm like,
what triggers you?
To get angry?
Yeah.
A lot of things. Yeah. A lot of things. I work a lot of hours, and so I'm always, when I'm tired, I have probably like a short temper with my kids. Yeah. What else triggers me? Feelings of like from past trauma that I've been in. Yeah. Feelings of being embarrassed in public. Feelings of being humiliated. Yeah. Feelings of being provoked, being put down. Yeah. Like. Yeah. And and when it happens, like, I can understand and I can sense now the stuff that slowly starts to rise. Yeah. Yeah. That's what you said about the trauma. I mean, it's amazing that you can identify your triggers, because a lot of people can't, or can't express it, or can't identify. But what I find is Pacific people is that we're constantly healing from trauma, because our parents, the way that, or that generation, the way that they disciplined us, or the way that they were taught how to live their lives. For example, like you mentioned a bit about this is education and this is how you're going to succeed, because it was quite black and white. But
we are now learning more about how our generation, about how to heal and how to evolve, and the fact that gyms are now a place where lots of Pacific people go is amazing, because
it wasn't always like that.
Yeah, it's almost like replaced churches in a way, because you know how churches are, of course, a place of, I can't talk because I don't go to church, but for people that do go to church, it's a place of healing and worship. Gyms have now almost become that place, and in a non-conventional way, obviously, unofficial way, like no one says I'm here to come and heal, but it is a healing process. Like, I hate exercise. I freaking hate it. I'm so lazy. I can lie in bed for an entire day and just not do anything and just eat Doritos all day, and you know, but as soon, I think I realized maybe a year ago that I needed to do something, not because something was like terribly wrong, but just I could sense that if I continued down this quite stressful, time-consuming, emotion-driven profession, I needed to find an outlet. And at that stage, my outlet was just sleeping, and that wasn't good enough. Wow. So yeah, and so this year I've made a change. I was like, okay, I'm going to start exercising, and I still hate it. Wow. But my trainer's amazing. Like, when I'm like, oh, what do you
hate about it?
I just hate, like, it's so hard. It's just so hard. Like, my trainer, she'll give me like a 6 kg ball, and she'll be like, squat. I didn't even know what a squat was, and I was just like, oh, it's so hard. And I just put it down. Like, I'm so lazy. I'm like the worst student. And then she'll be like, okay, cool, we'll just do air, just no body weight. And then she made, I love her. I did a, what's that grip strength thing where you 10 kgs on each hand, and you just walk like
dumbbells.
Yeah, dumbbell, that thing. Yeah. Yeah, dumbbells, yeah. So walking back and forth, and she made me do it like 6 times, and I was like, halfway through, I was like, okay, I'm tired, just pause, just wait. And she's so calm.
Right.
She's like, she gets me, and that's what I love. And I'm a slow and steady type of person, but I love that you said that it's a place that you know that the gym is an outlet for you. It's taken me a while to learn how good exercise is, and I think that's probably come from the advice of my older brother, who's always sort of identified, it's been sitting in the back of my head, he's always like, you know, you've got such a stressful job, you need an outlet. Like, I'm telling you, exercise is the way to do it.
Does he exercise?
He exercises, yeah. So one day I'm going to beat him in a race, that we'll see.
Man, you've raised some pretty cool points. Like, it's interesting. I was smiling when you said that in some ways gyms have replaced churches, because I think about that same thing often a lot as well. Because people go, when I grew up, people were going to church. They thought they were going to church to like unload, you know, all their sins. Yeah. And pray and heal, which I'm sure they still do. Yeah. No disrespect or anything. Yeah. But I have noticed, especially at Fit 60, and amongst the Pacific Island community in Auckland, and a little bit around the world as well, more and more Pacific Island people turning up at the gym. Fit 60 didn't have this amount of brown people a year ago.
Whoa.
It's huge.
That's so
and
cool.
It's so noticeable. It's so noticeable.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
But people come in like all different shapes, forms, sizes, fitness levels, everything. Yeah. You know? And I always try and tell people that whose class I'm teaching, that 80% of it is just turning up. Yep. Once you're there, then the 20% is sort of the effort that you put in, or how far you want to push yourself. Yeah. But 80% is just getting there, because it's hard to just turn up to a session, or it's hard to like figure out like, do I look good in this, or do I not look good in this? Or people going to stare at me, or like. But the other thing to think about that as well is that everyone's also so caught up in how they look and how they perform as well, that they're almost too busy to even sort of notice. Yeah, you know, what's going on around them. Yeah. But it's interesting though, the concept of like have gyms slowly taken over from like churches. Because more and more like people that do go to gyms and community gyms as well, they become, I'm not going to say fanatical, but I'm going to say they become real pro that gym. Like, this is my gym, this is my, and the people that are within that gym as well, they bond quite strongly. Yeah. But it's a choice that some of them make as well. Yeah. And they see each other socially outside of the gym as well, and they go to events and stuff together, which fascinates me. Yeah. Because like, yes, I do like going to the gym and stuff, but I've never gone to the gym for that. Right. I've gone to release, like I've gone to train, and that's it. And then I step out and I come back to my family. Yeah. And that's it. And I see people and stuff, I wave to them and say hi. And every now and then I'll be part of like something that we go out together. Yeah. But not often. Yeah. Because I don't see it like that. But I do Yeah, I often wonder about what you just said because I do see it happen a lot.
You know, that's what scares me about gyms.
Right.
How cult-like it is.
Right.
And I, no disrespect to the gym, I think it's amazing to have friendships and bond, but I'm very aware that it's quite cult-like. Like, this is, like you said, quite territory. This is our gym. We're family. We're together all the time. And I'm not like that type of person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I've got my really solid group of friends and people that I lean on, and I prefer doing it on my own with one-on-one with my trainer who will teach me how to do stuff, and then I go home, go to work, you know, go hang out with my friends, but all very quite separate. I like that.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different.
I'm the same as well.
Yeah.
I prefer to just go there, do my business.
Yeah.
Train, and then I step out.
Yeah.
And then, but it calms me, like it's kind of my therapy.
That's
It
cool.
calms me, and then
Did you always like it though? Because I'm wondering, like, when am I going to like exercising? Because I hate it.
When I first started training, I found it quite hard.
Yeah.
The thing that would get me into it is music. And initially, like, I'd listen to like a lot of slow jams.
Yeah.
Really weird.
Yeah.
Listen to a lot of slow jams and train really hard. And I don't know, I think it was the connection of everything that I was going through and stuff, but I'd find, this might sound weird, but when I was training, I'd train myself to the point of like tears. And it was like breaking through walls, not just physically, but emotionally as well.
Wow. So it's like proper healing for you. Like you go there.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen to me now, but it happened to me like when I first started training. It happened to me a lot. I find myself in tears while I'm training and can't breathe, and I'm like pushing myself beyond and beyond and beyond, and telling myself as well that like, you're better, Michael. You're better. You can do this.
Yeah.
You're better. You're better than everything that's around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And pushing myself to sort of break through everything that I was currently going through at the time.
Wow.
And I guess physically, it kind of all linked or made sense to me. And
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, without the support of having like an amazing wife, my life wouldn't really make sense to me.
Yeah.
That's probably a strange thing to say,
No.
but
I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. Like, if it makes sense to you, then it makes sense to you.
yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to make sense to me, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to get to that point where I just love exercising, love going to the gym. I haven't hit that stride yet.
I do a lot of things that I don't like. I'll take it like head on.
Yeah.
Just because, and to get it done with. And then I once did a run that was 100 kilometers. And I hate running.
Why would you do that?
Because I hate running. I hate running. And I was teaching classes at a gym, and I didn't like running at all.
Yeah.
The most I'd probably run like maybe 3K. And then someone that I was working with, who was a real ultra marathon runner, messaged me one night, and I was sober.
Yeah.
Told me his mate had pulled out from running his 100K with him.
Right.
Would I be keen? And I was like, 100K?
Yeah.
And I was at home with my wife.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, Ash just texted me. He's like, do you want to do a 100K run with me?
Yeah.
She was like, yeah, you probably couldn't do that. And I was
And you're like, what?
You don't think I could do it? She's like, well, you don't run. Like, why? How could you do 100K?
Yeah.
And I was like, I did the math. I was like, I had 13 weeks to prep for this. I was like, maybe I could.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you couldn't. Stop it. And I texted him straight back, and I was like, I'll think about it. I messaged him in the morning. I was like, I'm in.
Wow.
I had 13 weeks to prep for it and did it.
That's amazing.
But I knew, like, when I was training for it, people would tell me, like, oh, you're going to love running. You're going to fall in love with it. You're going to be a runner after this.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, cool, great.
Yeah.
But I knew, like, I'm probably not. I didn't like any of the training. I hated the whole thing. I just got through it.
Yeah.
Even like when I was training for it, the longest I ever ran was about 50K. Wow. So there was 50K that was unknown territory of like where what my body would do.
Yeah.
And so in preparing for it, I actually wrote my will. I wrote a will. I was like, I was going to cross that finish line like, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I did.
Wow. Awesome.
But I was so determined to like just get it done.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about myself through that sort of process of like what I'm capable of and who I am and how far I can really go if I just believe in something.
Yeah.
Or if I can work through my body being in pain for so long. If I can get through that, then there's so many other things I can get through in life.
True.
You know, but that's how I saw things. That's how I see things, like challenges.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's amazing.
It's different. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I do not recommend for people to go out and run.
Don't worry, I wasn't going to do it.
100K, yeah. But having said that, like my wife started running Nora started doing like some half marathons and stuff.
Cool.
And yeah, but I still don't like running, and I still won't run.
Yeah.
Like if you asked me to do like a 10k run with you, I'd probably say nah.
Yeah.
I'm
Don't worry, I
good.
won't ask you to do that. You won't catch me running. Don't worry.
Now going forward, like you did really well with that little piece that you did on fee.
Thank you.
Are you keen to do more pieces?
So keen.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So keen.
You should just do it.
I know, but yeah, I don't have like the technical skills. Like I've got ideas as to how I think, which is why I like being a director. I've got ideas as to how I like things to look, and but in terms of technical skills, I don't have that. And to be honest, I know my limitations. I'm not going to go and try and learn how to edit videos. I don't know how to do that. I'll just leave it to the actual pros. And I don't know how to shoot. But I think what I can do is bring people together. And I haven't done that in a while because I've been so busy, but I would love to work on another project. I've got something brimming in the back of my mind constantly.
Right.
That I'm hoping to
An
work
idea.
on. An idea.
Sure.
Yeah, an idea. You know when you get an idea,
Yeah.
do you tell people?
No. That's why I don't want you to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your idea is so precious.
Yeah.
And it's like if you think of like an unborn baby, it's like it's slowly discovering itself.
Yeah.
You're discovering it.
Yeah.
But you want that idea to be vulnerable, and you want that idea to be nurtured, and you do not want that idea to be stolen.
Yeah, exactly. I was
yeah.
just debating in like that split second whether I was
Talk
like,
about
shit,
it.
did I say it? No, I love that you.
If you said it, I would actually
yeah.
cut it out of this.
Yeah.
I don't cut much stuff out of these, but I would probably cut it out.
Yeah.
Because ideas are so...
They're so precious.
Yeah.
Because I've seen other people steal ideas and it's nasty. And I'm so big on being original because I've had stuff copied and I just really didn't like it. So, yeah, cool. I'm on board with that.
You can copyright stuff. Did you know that?
Yeah, but you have to pay a bit of money to do that.
$80?
Oh, I thought it was more.
Okay.
Oh no, I could
Well,
be
it
wrong.
depends what it was that was
could be
copied of
wrong.
yours.
Yeah.
Was it like a story idea?
No, it wasn't. It was just something stupid. It was something very stupid. Don't worry. It's not even worth. I feel petty even bringing it up. But yeah, it just it's nothing like.
Was it one of your fitness programs?
My running program, my 10K running program. No, I wish I could run, but no.
You can do anything, Reina.
Okay, I'm gonna run right after this. I will.
No, but because of like, if you look at everything that you've done as well, like you should know by now that you are capable of anything.
But my body.
Your mind will go past. Your body is so capable of so many things. Your mind like takes your body past.
True.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Do you know when I was training to run,
Yeah.
there's many times where you call it in Tongan tapeva, when you twist your ankle
Oh yeah.
when you fall down.
Yep.
The trick to that, get up, run. And it hurts like hell. But after like a few things, the pain wears off. The swelling does not swell because you're running, and
Right.
it goes away.
Right.
So
it's a mental thing.
it's a mental thing. It's
Yeah.
always a mental thing.
Yeah.
So you are capable of anything.
Okay, all right. I'm going to do my marathon.
So you have an idea that you want to work on.
Yeah. It's always been a dream of mine to make documentaries. I love storytelling. Like if someone asked me, what do you love doing? If I could do this all day, every day, I would do storytelling like through visual.
Wow.
Yeah. So docos are my favorite.
Okay.
If I could, but obviously that is like quite financially draining. You'd have to pour in a lot of money, and you'd have to have access to, and because I'm quite new to the industry, which is why I was grateful that Lisa asked me. I'd only been in doing media for like a year, maybe even half a year, and a complete nobody, and she had all these other directors, female directors, directing stories from that series, and they were amazing, and I looked up to them so much, and here I was just like nobody coming in to learn. And I think that's what I would like to continue doing, just learning and trying to hone in my craft, because I love it. Yeah, but it's just difficult because opportunities come and go, and funding and all that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Get yourself some like gear, man. Get yourself like, it doesn't cost, like, get yourself a camera.
Yeah.
Get yourself like a couple of lapel mics.
Yeah.
And just start shooting stuff just by yourself.
Really?
Like look at this.
Yeah, true.
Like I didn't go off anybody else to try and like, I didn't know who to call
Yeah.
to set this up, but I got a few people that like know sound, some people know sound, some
Yeah.
people know visuals.
Yeah.
But how to connect it all and how to run it and how to run this
Yeah.
as well.
How did you come up with, like, what made you think I want a podcast?
Because I travel quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, yeah,
I listen to a few New Zealand podcasts.
yeah,
They were never as in depth as I wanted them to be.
yeah,
And they were never, it was always like about a certain type of person that was
Yeah.
put up.
mm-hmm.
They'll just follow like sports celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
sports stars, tell their story.
yeah,
And then sometimes even at that, it wouldn't delve in. Like I wanted to know about like this person's childhood
Yeah.
or their parents. I wanted to know more about them.
yeah,
And it wouldn't go that deep. It would only go for like maybe 20, 40 minutes, then it would end.
right,
I just thought that there was like a market, or there was, if I was interested in hearing more about other people and more real people
yeah,
and people from everyday walks of life
Yeah.
that succeed and hear their journeys of like their wins, their
Yeah.
learnings, all that stuff, then there might be other people out there that might want to hear it as well.
right,
And that's where it all came from.
yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, but then I knew nothing about the technicals.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the technicals. I had to figure it out. And together with Nora, we just
Mhm.
slowly like Googled stuff, contacted people,
Cool.
and yeah, and everything that you see in here is all experimental.
That's so cool. 'Cause sometimes I think the hardest thing is just starting,
Yeah.
like just putting yourself out there as well for
Yeah.
like people to criticize or make comments. Do you find that hard?
The truth of it is I don't care.
Cool.
Like I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I just do these and that's it. I put them up and I couldn't care less about the comments.
Yeah.
Like I really appreciate people that love watching it and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I get caught up in or
Mhm.
like check all the time or stuff,
Yeah.
because I don't need to, because I appreciate sitting down with someone like you
Yeah.
for like a couple of hours and having this
Yeah.
and talking, and then like that's it. Like, you know,
Yeah.
but this is also the other thing that I wanted to do with the podcast, was have the chance to sit down with people and really
Yeah.
kind of pick their brain
Yeah.
or like listen to them and hear their journey and stuff, which is quite invaluable to me.
Yeah, that's cool. I think the awesome part about being part of the storytelling space
Yeah.
is that you get to meet people that you never would have really spoken to sometimes. Like people invite you, like you've invited me into your home, right?
Mm.
But in a way, I've also invited you into my space,
Mm.
into my home by sharing this. And that's a relationship built on trust. And because I watched your amazing like stories from before, I was like, I can trust you. And because you're Pacific Island and you live in South Auckland, building that trust. So I think that's really cool. And also cool for people who do, I listen to podcasts as well, to listen, to learn as well. It's such a good opportunity, a platform to learn. So I love that.
You are, literally a little secret, you are the first person that I've had here that I've never met before.
I thought so. I thought so.
Everyone else that I've had before, I've known them at some point or spoken to or been associated with. You're the first person.
First stranger.
Stranger, yeah, first person
Yeah.
that I've never met before
Yeah.
to bring in and just like and run this. But it's really good because it's
Yeah.
taken me like a few episodes to build up to this. I knew this moment would come.
Yeah.
It's gonna come eventually.
Yeah. No, I'm honoured. I'm so honoured. That's why I thought I better send you. I didn't know whether it was bots of me to send you an email, like of, you know, a little background. I was like, oh, is this like really bots? Or should I just wait? Did you want me to just organically speak about stuff? I didn't know. So I thought I might, because that's what I do for interviews, and people have different styles, whereas I'm like an over preparer, like I'll go through all the details.
I'm probably the most unorthodox.
No,
Because I don't do it with like no notes, nothing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But I do like look up stuff prior to it.
Yeah.
But when I got your email, my first instinct was I was intimidated.
Well, oh, no.
I was like, whoa. And I was pretty busy at work and I
Yeah.
just forwarded it to Nora and I was like, wow, check this out. This is amazing.
Sorry.
No, not at all. And then like later on, when I had time, like I really sat down and like went over it again.
Yeah.
And I just broke it down into simple, because you are human.
Yeah.
I am human.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people around us that are very high achievers are human.
Yeah.
They're all relatable.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes some people achieve more than others, but they're still relatable because we're all human.
Yeah, I agree. When I was going through uni, one of my friends said something really cool. He said, because one of our classmates was going off to have a baby, and she didn't want to be a lawyer. She was like, I'm going to be a mother. But she graduated from law school, but she just never practiced. And my friend said to me, because people obviously shared their opinions, like why would you give up your career and all this stuff just to be a mum? Obviously being a mum is like the most important role, one of the most important roles that you could play ever in your life. And one of my friends said to me, it depends on how you measure success. for her, success is being an amazing mum and being able to provide for her children. For someone like you who doesn't have any kids, yeah, your success could be in your career, but it's all about perspective. You know, how do you measure that? And I think people have different ways of measuring, you know, people have different standards, and I would never place any judgment. And that's what I'm always conscious of as well. Whilst it's important for me to let people, other Pacific people, students particularly, know that I'm a lawyer, they can be a lawyer if they want to be, I also don't want to project an air of arrogance that I am this person, and because like you said, we're all human. Just because I have this job, I'm not better than you. It's just a freaking job, and it's an opportunity that I've been blessed with. And I know that if some of my clients, I sometimes think, damn, you're so smart. If someone gave you the right support and tools, you would be way more successful than me. I think about that a lot of times when I meet people, because I'm like, you are actually probably more intelligent than me, but I'm here because of luck, opportunities that just came my way, that I was able in that time, had the right frame of mind to be like, yep, I'll take that, yep, I'll do that. So yeah, it's all about, we're all humans. And I'm really sorry, I did not mean to come across as intimidating. That's not my intention at all.
That's not about you though, that's about me and my
right, like you
insecurity.
said before.
No, that's definitely about me and my insecurity, and like seeing, I was like, whoa, like how am I gonna run this?
It was really
But then I was
long.
like, it's just like the 100K run, like you just do it.
Yes,
you just
yeah.
go. You know what I mean? And I trust myself enough to know that I can like maneuver. And I sat down early this morning and figured out like what I want you to talk about
Yeah.
and how I want it to go, and then I just leave it to the side.
Cool.
And I just sit down and just concentrate on you.
Cool.
Because I don't have like a degree in journalism. Like I don't know how you're
that.
supposed to interview
You don't
people.
need that, yeah. I don't have a degree in journalism either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I do know how to just sit down and talk to someone, which is one of the most important things we can do as humans.
Yeah, it's a gift.
It is a gift.
Yeah,
Thank
it is.
you.
Yeah.
You just said before, like success is how you measure it.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you measure success for yourself?
Yeah, for myself, I think being an authentic person. And when I say authentic, I mean authentic in the decisions that I make, authentic in the relationships that I have with people. I haven't always been good at having authentic relationships. I've had like a few friendships that I think are just really superficial.
Right.
And I think sometimes quite toxic.
Right.
And that was draining on me. And I've been quite, now that I'm older, learning how to weed those out and filter those types. And not to shun them, but just to sort of, you know,
recognize that you're on different paths.
Exactly. And some of my friends, people think, oh, you only hang out with lawyers. No, some of my friends haven't been to uni. And it's not about what level of success we've achieved. It's about, again, authentic relationships. So I'm big on relationships, big on the decisions that I make, and big on my purpose. My purpose has always been, what can I do? What skills am I giving to help someone else? And I think it's because my mum is sort of like that, always wanting to help family members that are coming over from Samoa. So she did it in a different way, but I recognise that value, and that's a value that I live with every single day of my life. I try to, at the very most. Yeah.
So do you regard yourself as being successful?
I would struggle to say that I'm successful. Yeah. I think I'd struggle to say that I'm successful because I'm still learning. I don't feel like I've got everything right, but I would say that I am happy and that I'm at least on the right path. And if, like for example, if things don't deter me the way that they used to when I was younger, like, you know, I would think about a lot of things and it would weigh heavily on me, like criticism, comments. But I think once I fully entered my stride into my job and my friendship groups, I felt really secure. And so I do have self-doubt, like sometimes, but it doesn't overwhelm me in the way that it used to. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, I try, but yeah, I would still struggle to say that I'm successful. Yeah.
I guess I measure it like in terms of my happiness, like where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think if I was to die tomorrow, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with it. My wife probably wouldn't be. I know she'd listen to me. But it's hard as well to say that when there's children involved. But I thought about it like a few days ago. I was like, if I was to pass away tomorrow, would I be okay with everything that I've done so far?
Yeah.
And it's again, it's the same thing to do with being authentic and being real. And also this podcast as well, like doing this podcast kind of challenges me as well to be authentic and be real and like answer things like straight on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of probably things about me or certain things that I didn't think other people knew about. Yeah. But I'm more than willing to like talk about them because I've got to make this like a normalize it. And it has to be normal for people watching or people listening. Yeah. That you can talk about things like anger management. You can talk about things like going to jail, or you can talk about things that have happened to you to make it normal. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not. Yeah. Otherwise, if I don't speak about it, why would they speak about it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And the more it's normalized to hearing, especially guys, man, talk about stuff like this easily, then the better it should be for other people to feel more free about unloading whatever it is that they've been through or have gone through, and not make it feel like it's just something that they have to carry all the time and they just carry it. Yeah. Because I think that's more the generation of my parents that were used to just carrying stuff and just shutting up and holding on to it, which is, I guess, for some of them maybe worked, some of them maybe didn't work. For some of them it might have filtered down into their children. The children ended up carrying some of those burdens for them as well. But I believe that the more you're open about it, and the more you're open about the stuff as well with my children as well, the more it makes them okay when things happen to them. They can talk to me about it. They can talk to me or their mother about it. Because I don't want them carrying stuff. Like I know what it's like to carry stuff and go through stuff kind of alone. I feel like I'm rambling.
No. I'm on board with you. Because I agree, especially with like the generational difference between just be quiet and don't share your problems. There's a real shift in our community as to how we share and how we support one another. And of course, especially with destigmatizing mental health, has been massive campaigns around that, and I think it's brave. It's cool, and it's cool to be brave. It's cool to be honest. And to be honest, one of the things that I struggle with working in the legal profession are like working with irasas. There are so many people that just put up all this, and these barriers of like not being true to themselves, and that's what I guess. I don't want to sound judgmental when I say that annoys me, but it's frustrating. And you can't build authentic relationships with those types of people. And I think it's cool that you've built authentic relationships with your children, with your wife, Those are fundamental, because for example, growing up, I probably wouldn't have gone to my mum or dad if I had a problem. It would just feel weird, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't tell them, I've got a boyfriend. That would just be so weird for me to talk to them about that. Right. It was just about school.
Why is that? Home. Just the way your family was?
Between my siblings, we're very, very open.
Right.
But with my parents, they're not very open people.
Okay.
They're not
just
very,
how they were raised.
Yeah, they're not very affectionate. So I remember watching kids in school, like after, they got an award or something, they would get like a hug or something, or like, well done. We never got that. And I just,
So what was it? Tell me then. What was it like when you got awards?
Nothing. It was just like, yeah, you, go you.
Tell me to refill your...
Oh, no, I'm okay. Thank you so much. It was just like, okay, cool, well done, yeah. And we only ever heard stuff when we'd done things wrong. Like, for example, if I was in a play or something and they'd be like, oh, you didn't do this very well. So quite critical. But I think out of all my siblings, I managed to use that criticism in a really healthy way. And no disrespect to my siblings, but I think that it just sort of brushed off, and it almost encouraged me to work harder, where it could be easy to just shut down and not want to do things again. But yeah, that was, my parents I would almost say that they're kind of socially awkward as well. I think Samoan people would understand them, but non-Samoan people wouldn't understand them. Right. They're just quite different, quiet in a sense. But
do you think they're different to other Samoans of this generation?
No.
Okay.
No, not very different from them. Yeah. But they're very. It's funny because people always say, "Oh, your parents must be really proud of you," and I know that they are in a sense, but I've never heard them say it. And I think, what's important to me is I know that it's just that I know that they're proud, and I don't need them to say it to me, which has been good training for me when people don't say thank you, or when people don't congratulate me on stuff. It's just like, that doesn't matter to me. I did the work because I wanted to do the work, not because I wanted to be affirmed. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks when you're the sort of person that's always looking for affirmation.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different.
Yeah.
You know, some people like really are.
Yeah.
Just doing stuff because they need the
need that
applause.
yeah,
they need
exactly.
The validation.
Yeah. I think there is sometimes a part. I have to be honest. There is sometimes a part of me that wants to be acknowledged in some sense, but not to the extent of I'm so proud of you. If it's like, oh yeah, you did this, that's enough for me.
Yeah.
It's particularly from my parents, because I know that they're not capable, and I mean that with respect, they're not capable of expressing themselves in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awkward for them to do so.
It's very awkward. So I think affection and stuff like that, not very affectionate at all.
Wow.
Yeah. Because were your parents affectionate?
Well, my mom's Palangi, so
Right.
my mom's always been like kind of affectionate, I guess. My father was always quite proud of what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different though, having a Palangi mum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's completely different to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess it is probably a generational thing.
I definitely think it is, yeah. Because I think even like just very, very small things I used to notice when I was little, like how parents would come in and they'd be like holding hands, or they'd be like, you know, I never once saw, obviously I knew that my parents were together, but I just never saw them show affection to each other, ever.
Right.
Like, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very, how do I say this? It was normal in my house until I saw it happening in like TV movies and then around me as an adult. I was like, oh crap, that was actually quite weird, you know, even though it was normalized. But yeah, it was just something we grew up with. And
is that something you would change when you have kids in your house?
Yeah, I consider myself quite an affectionate person.
Yes.
I think I'm affectionate more with my words than my actions sometimes, but I consider myself quite an affectionate person. And I think from watching that, I was like, oh, I don't really want to be like that. Also, as a kid, I was quite affectionate anyway. Like, it was in my nature to be affectionate. Yeah, all good.
What would you say to people that are currently going through difficult things about achieving things, or if there's things that they want to achieve in life that they don't feel like they can because there's too much noise around them at the moment?
It's really hard. I totally get that. I think, what do you mean by noise? Like distractions or negative things? Negative
things that are happening around them, or happening at home around them.
Yeah.
Or like they're in relationships where it's hard for them to like see past it. They're in maybe toxic relationships where like even their families are telling them like, you need to get away from this person. And the more the family does that, the more they isolate themselves into it. And they just happen to be driving to work one day and they're listening to you and me right now. What do you,
So I think, I'm big on manifestation, writing down things that you want from your life, writing down things that, even if it's just little things, like the beginning of the year I wrote, go for a walk twice a week. And sometimes I don't add to it, but I do check on it. And I think having a moment to sit down and reflect on what you want from life, because I think people get so caught up in little details and like little things like, oh, this happened today. But if you take a step back, it might just be a bad day, but it's not a bad life. And if you take a step back and have a look at everything, I need to check myself sometimes as well. But I've always been a bigger picture person. Where do I want to be in my life? Like, what do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? What kind of children, what kind of environment do I want to raise children in? Things like that. And I think if you write down things daily, or even if you don't even if you're not a writing person, maybe like recording something or putting it down, because I think once you write it down or even say it out loud, you're putting it out into the universe. And I'm big on like the universe paying you back or encouraging you on energy. It will happen, because for me, I started doing that when I was like 13. and it's always worked out well for me.
Wow.
And that's why I'm a huge believer in it. So in my
Who taught
friends,
you how to do that?
I don't know. I just got a diary as a gift, and then I was like, oh, what do I want? And I think the diary was like, it was like a lock diary, and it was like, what do you want to, it was something about asking me what I wanted, like what do you want to write down or something, write down your thoughts. And then I just started writing, I want to get an award this year. That was it. And I'll just write it down. And it was looking back now, it's kind of a weird thing for a kid to do, but just seeing that sentence asking me what are your thoughts, I was like, oh, the diary wants me to write down my thoughts. Okay, cool. So I do it every single year. Sometimes I do it every 6 months, or I check in every month. And I have been where I have really struggled. I've checked in every single day, and I've looked at, okay, cool. So if you see my house, there's lots of diaries, lots of notebooks. I carry notebooks everywhere I go. It's in my car. I've got 2 notebooks in my car. And it's not like an obsessive thing that I have, where like, oh, I've got to look at my notebook. It's just knowing that I've acknowledged that I want this and I deserve this, and somehow something's going to happen. And it's a reminder in the back of my head to think, okay, I need to go for a walk because it will help me achieve X, Y, Z. It will help me get into a calm space where I can write these legal submissions, or I can feel better about my case tomorrow, things like that. So yeah, I'm big on writing things down.
Right. That's really interesting. That's the first time I've heard that, actually. But that's really cool. That's really cool. So if you write down things, you come back to them and you slowly build on those.
Yeah, I think it's like for me personally, a way of my brain processing things. Sometimes, like for example, I wrote down that I wanted to attend a top university in the world. And even as I was writing it, I had self-doubt, and I just thought, I don't want to tell anybody else this because this is kind of embarrassing. And I'm not really an academic person, like compared to my other friends who have gone off and done that. But I wrote it down, and 2 years later I applied, and I still kept thinking, this is not going to happen, but I need to keep putting it out into the universe. So I started talking about it, not just only to my immediate family, saying, because again, I don't like sharing ideas. I don't like sharing it until I've achieved them, until I've done it. So I truly believe that me writing it down fully manifested into me being accepted, because what the interviewer said to me was, we wouldn't normally consider someone like you. You're not really someone that our university actually even looks at.
Which university is this?
It's the University of Cambridge, and that's in the UK. And
damn.
They honestly, the interviewer lady said, so you're not really Cambridge material? And I never took offense to that, because I was like, sister, I know I'm not Cambridge material. But she said, but we're really interested in you as a person. You just are like an interesting, and I'm an orange sheep. So she, that's what started it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, she's not really the academic, because you have to be quite a nerdy person, and I'm not a nerdy person at all. What I wrote in my application form was about how I wanted to study criminology, because I wanted to find out or research about Pacific people in the criminal justice system and find out ways to improve their experience or ways to prevent them from coming to court. And I spoke about my Pacific culture, spoke about South Auckland, and spoke about my experiences as a defence lawyer in South Auckland. And I think because they hadn't really heard of like, what's a Samoan, what is this, they've only got 70 black students in their entire university, which is a small number.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure there have been other Samoans that have attended there, but not many.
Right.
Not many. I would say probably about less than 10. And that's how, and I believe it was through manifestation. People call me weird all the time, but I can't really think of any other way. And it's also helped me, even if you don't believe in manifestation, just sometimes acknowledging that you want something, or acknowledging that it helps you feel like, because I didn't feel like I deserved to go there.
Right.
I didn't feel like I was good enough.
Right. Even when you applied.
Yes. And I was scared, and I was like, oh, I'm actually embarrassed to do this. But it's something that I wrote down, and I want to see if I've got a shot. And like so many people apply around the world, so I'm not going to hold my breath. It's okay. So that has been a major, it's been an encouraging thing for me, and I encourage other people as well, because I think just because I'm there, it should show that anyone else can get in as well. It's not this big ivory tower that we can't access. If someone like me was able to like push through, so many other students should be able to get through too. Yeah, not because I'm smart, that is not the reason why I got through. I think it's because they showed that they care about the person as a whole. Yeah.
It's so cool. It's also the fact as well that you were willing to apply, which, like, if you weren't confident in applying in the first place, takes balls just to apply. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of our Pacific Island people as well hold back when it comes to that step.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, nah, I'm not good enough. I just know it. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And so they don't even apply. Whereas if they did apply, you just never know.
You actually never know. And if you get a rejection, who cares? Try again. Figure out what went wrong. Try again. Like, and I think getting used to rejection is such a good thing. Getting used to failure, it's so cool. You have to get used to it. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck. And no one wants to be stuck.
And you've been rejected a lot of times?
So many times. Like, it just... And I didn't realize that it was a thing that people were afraid to apply for jobs. I just didn't know, because I would apply for like 20 jobs all the time, and I'd be rejected from all 20. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Try again. I've got this template. And I enjoyed the process of applying. I don't know why I enjoyed it.
How do you... This is probably where it's really different. How do you not take all that rejection so personally? Because it's easy to like, oh, they don't like this about me, or... Yeah. How do you just shrug it off?
I think that once it happens to you enough... Once it happens to you enough, you get used to it. Like, you've got no other choice. Like, just who cares? And I know it's easy for me to say who cares, but you actually have to, like, sometimes you might care in the first 20, but I promise you after that, you won't care. Like, I even remember when I was in primary school, and I would try out for all the sports teams, right? Because I wanted to go get a day off, and you'd go and, you know, do all these tournaments. And I got rejected from so many. And I think that was like... my sporting rejection was like the foundation of my attitude. Like, I was like, okay, cool, I will keep going. And I kept trying out for stuff in high school too, and I was rejected. But it's all good. Like, it's like getting beaten up. You know, you just have to keep, like your ankle. You know, if you, what's that? The beaver, your ankle. You got to keep running.
Just get up and run.
Yeah, you got to get up and run.
My degree is in acting.
Yeah.
And so I, for the last 20 years. 18 years, have gotten used to audition after audition after audition, and rejection is just like, it's just like
awesome.
But I really wanted to hear like from you, like how you dealt with it. But it's the same thing. It's like, just get used to it happening so many times that it's never personal. It's and often like in the acting world, it's real different. It can be real pathetic reasons as well. Like so many reasons. You're too tall. You're brown. You need more hair. You your nose is too big. The way you talk, you don't come across intelligent. It's so many things, so many little things that every human, like, because everyone's different. But when people are casting for things, they're looking for an idea of a character. You know what I mean? And if you don't fit that for whatever reason, you're out the door. What made you want to become an actor? When I came to New Zealand, like I was telling you before, that I was just passing, so I wasn't doing too well, right? I had a really good, what do you call them? Careers advisor. Oh, yep. And she sat me down one day and she was like, "You're failing everything, but I see from your past stuff in Tonga that I was a head prefect in Tonga High School, that you have really good grades and stuff, and I don't know what's going on." And I was like, "I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't like it here." Yeah. And she goes, "Have you ever tried being in a school production?" And I was like, because we didn't have school productions in Tonga. Yeah. No. And she said, "Why don't you audition for like the local, the 7th form school production?" I was like, "Okay." Yeah. And so I auditioned. I got a part in it. Cool. I did that, and they thought I was good enough to that I should audition for Unitec, which is there's only 2 drama schools in New Zealand, and Unitec's the only one that at the time would take students that were at least 17 or 18 into a degree program. Awesome. The other one's Toi Whakaari, but they start them at like 21. You have to Wellington. Be 21. Yeah. So I auditioned and I got in. Amazing, right? Because at the same time, it was like 2,500 people auditioned, and they took like 24. I heard it's so hard to get in. Yeah. So hard. Yeah. Yeah. Even when I was auditioning, I didn't really understand what I was doing. Right. Like, because I'd never done acting or creative stuff or none of that.
Did it, when you were acting, did it feel natural to you at the time? Or were you still like...
I felt like I could do it.
Cool.
I felt like I could do it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel like... I never thought that I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
cool.
I knew that I had the confidence and I had something to say.
Yeah.
And I could hold my own space when I would stand up.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I could do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had also applied for the New Zealand Army. Yeah, because I just needed something to like go to from 7th form.
Yeah.
And I got accepted to both. So I got accepted to drama school and I had to and to the army as well. And I had to make a decision. And so I ended up choosing to go with my acting.
How did you make that decision?
To me, one involved girls and one didn't.
Right. Yeah.
No, the thing with the army was that like they accepted me into like the officer program.
Right.
But part of that condition, and rightfully so, is that you have to be with the New Zealand Army for at least 7 years. When you're 17, like 7 years feels like a long time, but like I can understand why, because the New Zealand Army is giving you an education, they're giving you a degree and stuff, and so they expect something back, So 7 years when I was 17 just felt like too long, man. Also, I don't know why I asked this, but when I asked the army, I was like, let me just get this straight. So if New Zealand was to ever go to war with Tonga, I have to be in the New Zealand Army. I can't switch sides, or I can't withdraw. They were like, no, you cannot. Okay, all right, I was just asking. That kind of sealed my decision.
Yeah. That's a good question, though.
Well, I needed to know.
Just in case.
I needed to know.
Yeah.
So like being accepted into drama school, I just hit it full speed, went all or nothing.
Right.
And I just went for it.
Awesome.
And I just doubled down, and like it's like a 3-year degree, and I completed everything.
Amazing.
And got an agent and came out the other end, and then started working, got jobs here and there. I like acting. Yeah. Right. And I still do it now, every now and then, but I do it for different reasons. Cool. I do it for more like financial reasons. Right. I do it or if it's a role or a production that I believe really says something, has a real clear, strong message that I agree with, then I'll do it. But otherwise, it's not like I have a burning passion to be on stage or be in front of a camera. I don't. Yeah. Like it's weird, but that's sort of like something that sort of matured with me as I've grown older. Right. But the other thing that I do know about myself is that I've worked so many different jobs. I can do anything, and the backbone of who I am and what I am is providing for my family. Yeah. So acting's like one small part of that. Yeah. It's because some actors like this is their life. Yeah. And I understand that. Yeah. And all power to that. They like put everything around, their craft and their art. And I can appreciate that. I'm not like that. Yeah. So to me, it's just a part of who I am that I can access if I need to. Yeah.
Do you regret choosing acting? Has there ever been a moment where you regret choosing that career path?
Many.
Yeah. Yeah.
Many.
What's made you regret it?
It's unpredictable. It's an unpredictable career. You cannot raise a family unless you... A lot of actors like diversify off. They become like writers, directors. They figure out other ways to like work in the industry aside from just being an actor, which is great. Yeah. But for me, like writing never really appealed to me. Maybe one day I'll direct something. It wouldn't kill me if I never directed anything. Right. There's the other side of producing, being a producer, which has never really appealed to me either. Yeah. There's the background stuff, which like I couldn't care less. Yeah. But the inconsistency of acting work would really get to me. Yeah. Really get to me, especially like when your children are young and you're broke. Yeah. You're broke. Yeah. Then you regret and jobs come and they're really well paid, and then it's gone. Yeah. And then you might not have a job for like a year or 2 years. Yeah. And so I really feel for a lot of actors and artists out there that go through this. And it's not just actors. There's dancers. There's all these other artists out there that are trying to live their passion and live their dream. Yeah. It's hard. You know? And the reality is, like here in New Zealand, unless you're working on something like Shortland Street, or like a really strong New Zealand series, that's the only way you're making a living as being an actor. Right. And I don't really necessarily want to be on Shortland Street, like for a good chunk. Right. Agency's probably going to kill me when I say that. But that's the truth, though.
I hear you.
That's the truth.
Do you know how I said to you before about how I usually ask people what their dream like whatever their dream is. What's your dream? Is this your dream? What are you living your dream? Or when you were younger, did you have something else in mind that you wanted to do?
When I was younger, I wanted to be Tonga's first ever Tongan Japanese teacher.
Oh, cool.
I was really good at Japanese.
Right,
Yeah,
cool. Tonga has quite a good relationship with Japan anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did Japanese from 3rd form all the way up.
Oh my gosh.
And I became the top student across the whole Pacific in 6th form for Japanese.
Wow.
I know, right?
Wow.
Crazy.
That is so cool.
But Japanese is actually very, very similar to Tongan.
Right.
The vowels and the pronunciations are very, very similar.
Right.
So once you just get your mind past the characters and how the characters go and stuff, then it's actually quite similar.
That's awesome.
So I'd wanted to be Tonga's first Tongan Japanese language teacher.
Right.
Because all our Japanese teachers were all Japanese, of course, you know, but we didn't have like a teacher that was like, that looked like us. Yeah. You know, so I wanted to be that.
Yeah.
And then when I came to New Zealand, it changed. Like I still took Japanese in 7th form. I was still okay at it. But it changed because I was in a Western country. And I started to see more opportunity here in New Zealand than there was in Tonga. So I really started to question like wanting to go back and work in Tonga, you know. So that affected things. And then becoming an actor changed things again. Right. Like becoming an actor, like I enjoyed acting when there was like a good character that I could unfold or good character that I could like sink my teeth into and like live and breathe through that character's eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost psychological stuff. Yeah, yeah. The one thing I did not like that acting sort of had with it was the whole idea of being famous. That really didn't appeal to me at all, or people knowing you or strangers knowing you. Yeah. And that's never really appealed to me at all. Yeah. And so that was kind of off-putting about it. I am living my dream. I'm literally living my dream because awesome. I have healthy children. I have a wonderful wife, and that's really like more. That's like the only other thing that I want is a house. Yeah, is to buy a house. But Auckland property at the moment is insane. But having said that, I have a plan in place to achieve that. Yeah, you know. But like I'm literally, there's nothing more that I want. Yeah, and I just want my children to be happy, to be like functioning members of the community when they grow up, because that's the other thing as well. I often am quite strong about like you know when you have children and they're your babies and stuff. Right. I don't believe in like always like sort of cotton wooling them or like they're like my babies, because you're actually raising other adults. Yeah. And if you want them to be independent and stuff, they have to be able to think for themselves, make decisions for themselves, and not always lean on you for stuff all the time. Otherwise. I want them to move out. Yeah. I don't want them to hang around home once they're growing up. That's awesome. But I can also appreciate like one of the worst things I could ever imagine is like anything ever happening to any of my children. And I couldn't imagine a pain worse for any parent. You know, so I feel very grateful that none of them are in hospital. Yeah. Or that nothing has happened to them. Yeah. You know, and the world is there's so many things that can go wrong day to day, every day. Yeah. So like if you ask me right now, I feel like I'm living my dream.
That's
like,
awesome.
I'm in a good place. That's
amazing. Do you still speak Japanese a little bit?
No, I don't. Yeah. But I still remember watashi no nawa wa Michael Koroi desu. I still remember little bits and pieces.
My name is Michael.
My name is Michael. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
I still remember bits and pieces, but there's no one to speak Japanese with.
Cool. You know, I have you heard of the Japanese? You know the Japanese rugby team?
Yes.
Have you heard of that? There's quite a few Tongans, and there's Samoans in there as well.
Yeah, they're quite a mixed bunch.
I met a Japanese player who had been living there. His name is Nakajima. Okay. He went straight from Tonga to Japan, and he could only speak Japanese and Tongan. I was meant to do a story on him, but he couldn't speak English very well. So we were like trying to like figure out. He brought his manager person there who was like helping us to communicate, but it was so interesting because I had almost forgotten about the relationship that Japan has with Tonga. It's almost similar to the ones that we have with China, like how we've got lots of Chinese Samoans and there are lots of Tongan Japanese people, or not lots, but there's a number, you know, a unique number. And it made me think about how interesting that the relationships that our islands have with Asia, and also the connection. Like you assume, I just ignorantly assumed that he could speak English when I spoke to him, and I was like, holy crap, oh my gosh, you only know to speak Japanese and Tongan, which is freaking amazing, but English was just like, oh, out the window, you know. And I just thought, good on you. You don't have to learn English. Why does it have to be the predominant language for you?
And that's but a lot of your posts and stuff are about sort of stepping out of comfort zones and stuff.
I'm big on that. I'm big on stepping out of your comfort zone because of the way that it's helped me in my own life. And I think it's also like a big sort of FU to the conservative profession that I work in. And I know that some of them read my posts and are like not very happy about it.
Right.
But you know, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Like, I can't just be this one-track lawyer, like this traditional stereotypical lawyer, because that's not me. First of all, I'm not a stereotypical lawyer because I'm young, brown, and I'm female, and most of the profession is old, white, and male, you know, so it's complete opposites. And I think it's important for me to share, because I do get messages about some law students wanting to go and do other stuff, and I'm like, go for it. You should dabble in whatever interests you have, because otherwise you're not living your best life. And I'm all about living my best life. I don't always get it right, but I try.
Sure. It's interesting though to me that other people care so much about
I know
what you put out.
like who cares? And I think in some ways I have gotten into trouble, like I have been spoken to.
Really?
Yeah, I have.
About your social media posts?
Yes, about just toning it down a bit. And I don't think my posts are that outrageous.
Was it any particular post in particular?
Just in general, doing like photo. For example, if I was walking to court, and I'd be like, off to court, and like, don't announce when you're going to court. Don't announce where you are. And I thought it was a safety thing, but it's a reputation thing. And I remember one time I did an interview with a New Zealand Law Society magazine, and I was still in like my second year of practice, so I was still very junior at the time. And I spoke about how I've been confused. Other lawyers have asked me what time I'm appearing in court as a defendant, right? Because they thought I was the defendant going into the dock. Right. And I spoke about it, and I spoke about the racism in our profession, and I had people coming up to me saying, why did you say that? Like, why? I'm never racist to you. And it's like, this is actually about the wider profession, and the fact that you are coming up to me rather than saying, hey, I didn't know that happened to you. One lawyer came up to me and said, that was very brave of you, and that was I think he's South African Indian, and he said, what you said in the article has been exactly what I've been feeling this entire time. He's been practicing for over 20 years, and it validates, because sometimes you do get quite sort of in your own world and you think, crap, did I do the right thing? I don't always have confidence in the decisions that I make, especially when someone comes at you and says, you know, you shouldn't have said that. And I'm actually like, no, it's my duty to speak out about this stuff, because if I don't, I'm continuing the racist systems that continue to oppress not only brown lawyers but also brown clients that come through the system. Yeah.
When someone comes up to you and says something like, I've never done that to you, that in itself is a form of like trying to continue the same system. Exactly.
Yeah, trying to control the narrative and centering themselves around the narrative.
But that's only because they feel uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And if they feel uncomfortable, normally it's because they know deep down that it's not right, that something's not right. Yeah, exactly. But they just don't want to be held accountable for it, or felt like they're put to blame over it.
Exactly. And one thing I learned really early on about the legal profession is that your reputation is everything. Once your name is mud, it is mud forever. And so they're big on image, big on, like I said, traditions and upholding the system, the hierarchies. There's even rules about where we're allowed to sit in court. If you are a more senior lawyer and I've been sitting there waiting and my client's coming up next, I will have to give my seat to them. And of course it's a respect thing as well, but to have that as like a rule, like I've had one lawyer, older lawyer, he told my friend, he just tapped her on the shoulder and said, get off, and told it was so rude. But it's that arrogance that they have, and it's acceptable, right? Because people don't reprimand old white men, well, not until recently, right? You know, yes, yeah. So I'm all about the shift that's happening, because we've been seeing it, we've been experiencing it for a very long time, and I'm glad that people are finally opening up their eyes. But the profession itself still has a very long way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you see a change, like, from those old white men to, like, younger people coming through?
Yeah. I'm hopeful.
Well, soon those old white men are going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a bad thing to say.
No, I'll be at their funerals. I'll be crying at their funerals. But no, I definitely think that there's going to be a change. I sense a new generation coming forward. And one of my friends said, she's quite senior in the profession, she said, I'm not sure whether it will happen in my lifetime, but I'm hopeful. And I think that being hopeful is important, because when we hope, we start to think of ways that we can make change. And I think that seeing the amount of Pacific law students coming into the profession, because we bring new ideas, and there's this weird idea that you have to leave your culture at the door whenever you walk into these spaces. I completely reject that. Our culture, what we bring as brown people, our experiences and our values are so important. They're so worthy, and people need to hear our ideas. Sometimes we get shut down, but we're there at the table, and as long as we're at the table, then we can start sharing our value, and that's important, because sometimes we're not even given a seat. Yeah. New
Zealand, I think, is slowly changing. So
it's much better than the UK.
Right.
Much better. When I was living in the UK, I hated it, because I thought it would be similar to New Zealand, but it wasn't. It's very, very old school. Yeah. All the things that I hated about New Zealand were, like, amplified in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you in the UK for?
I was there for about a year.
Right.
So I was studying and I was working at the same time, and then just travelling. Yeah.
So what you're doing with the Cambridge University in the UK, is that 2 years?
It's a 2-year program. So I started about in 2019, and then when COVID hit, I was meant to go in 2020, but they postponed it, and they're putting it back on this year to finish my last year, and it might be done via Zoom, unless they postpone it again, but I'd like to finish it.
You enjoying it?
Yes and no.
Right.
It's a lot of reading, and it's a lot of work.
This is for a master's, is that right? Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's what I signed up for, and I don't want to complain about it because it's such a privilege. Yeah.
Wow. So what, you stay up late a lot?
Yeah. I have been staying. It's what I've been used to anyway.
Right.
Like, I feel like I've always been, and people used to say to me, you need to relax, you need to, and what people don't know is that I will work, like, for example, I'll stay up for, like, I don't know, sleep for 3 hours for like 3 months, and then for the next 3 months I will not talk to anybody, and I'll just sleep and relax, and that's how I unwind. Now that I've added exercise to it, I hope that gets a bit better.
Would you be do you think it's right to say that, like, that you see yourself as someone that's not, the way you see yourself is not amazingly or overly intelligent or gifted in any way, but that you're a damn hard worker?
Yes. Yeah. So I will not be smarter than you.
Yeah.
I will not be more talented than you, but I will outwork you. And it's not like about competition or anything, like I'm going to work harder than you. It's just my drive. I'm not one to give up easily. So yeah, I work really, really hard. And I sometimes people think, it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I enjoy working hard. It's important to me.
It is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
To be a hard worker. Reina, I love everything that you stand for. I love that you're outspoken. I love that you're such a strong beacon of light. My wife is one of your biggest fans.
Oh, I'm one of her biggest fans.
She admires everything you stand for, and it's so important for me, for a father of daughters, to have people like you that exist and that are accessible as well, is quite an important thing. If anybody wants to follow Reina, her handle is Reina Does the Macarena, which is one of the catchiest handles I have heard. When did you come up with that?
Oh my gosh, do you want to know?
8 years ago, right?
Like ages ago.
Reina Does the Macarena.
Do you know what's really funny about that?
What?
So years ago, I met Jacinda Ardern in Manukau District Court.
Okay.
And she was a Labour MP at the time. She wasn't a Prime Minister. And I was a fan of hers because she had done a speech about child poverty in the Beehive. And I was like, oh, she's amazing. But people didn't really know her.
Yes.
So she was doing a tour. And I hopped out of court, like, was like, okay, I'm in the middle of something. Went out and I was like, oh my gosh, I think you're amazing. You're so cool. Bye. And she was just like, oh, bye. And I went back in. And then I saw her, bumped into her later, and she came up to me and we had this like deep and meaningful chat. And I thought she'd never remember me, but then she followed me on Instagram. And when she followed me, I thought, yeah, cool. She, you know, MP, I like her, cool. Then she became Prime Minister. And 2 years into her being Prime Minister in her first term, I thought, oh, she won't remember me. I went to this event. I was like, she won't remember me. And I just went up to her and said, hi, can I take a photo? And she was like, oh, you're Reina does Macarena. And I was like, yes, yes, Jacinda, that's me. See, and sometimes she'll like some of my posts. And so that is, I will never change. Because I thought about changing it. I was like, no, it's a bit unprofessional. It's a bit weird, is it? And then I was like, after that,
I'll never change it. It is the catchiest thing. Like, it is the catchiest handle that I've come across. No, it really is. It really is. When I was going to introduce you to it, I was going to go, Reina does the Macarena. Because it's such a catchy handle. Yeah. So you've had it for years, yeah? Years.
Like years when I first got Insta. Yeah.
You just came up with it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember. I was just like, oh, what's my... And because I wasn't taking... like, I just thought, Instagram, what is this? It was quite new. Yeah. And I was like, okay, what's my... Reina does Macarena.
Reina does the Macarena.
Done. Yeah. That was it. I don't even know. I don't even do it's Macarena. Yeah, I
know. You just put in the eye.
Yeah, I just put in the eye. Yeah, I don't know.
That's really cool. Well, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Having you on board.
Same.
And I've really enjoyed this.
Me too.
I've actually learned heaps from sitting down with you. So cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye, everybody. Awesome.
Garage Drinks with Mike.